Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became the Green Flash Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story HarshaJirou from Wattpad. So let's start the video. SPOV. It's been 4,899 years. I thought as I was on top of a mountain gazing down on 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗲 city, which has once been the hidden leaf village. But now, not even a speck of history is alive from the years. Humans have evolved and the concept of chakra is not even present. Instead, people are now being born with powers called quirks. Chakra is gone because those with quirks cannot have chakra in their bodies. I am the only being that I able to use chakra in this era. I then heard a voice in my soul, "Oi Naruto, don't forget about me, even though my brothers have all ascended to afterlife, I am still here." Third person POV. The individual now recognized as Naruto Uzumaki, one of the most powerful men to walk on earth, which was previously elemental nations. A man who was cursed with immortality with only one way to leave this place, but has been waiting for the opportunity to show up. The man still looked as he was the day he became the Hokage, but his eyes has dulled, not showing the longing and life that it once had. The man then jumped down from the cliff as he applied chakra to his feet and started running down the mountain at an extraordinary speeds. Once the man reached the bottom, he ventured into the city for a walk. Walking through the neighborhood while looking around the various buildings, women carrying groceries while talking to each other, middle school and high school students lively chatting with each other as they were returning home. He was thinking how much things have changed since arrival of quirks. People with powerful quirks formed together a profession called heroes to protect people against the criminals and murderers who are misusing their powers for inhuman acts. He is happy since it was a noble idea when was first implemented, but after 100 years. Not everyone was a hero for protecting people. Some were in it for popularity, money, and etc. But not all of the heroes were like that. It was a small majority. Naruto was truly impressed by one hero named All Might. That man was stronger than Lady Tsunade, which was only achieved by his friends Sakura and her daughter Sarada. And Naruto can see that the man was passionate about saving others and took his responsibility very seriously. While happy about the hero profession, Naruto also felt sad for the people who were born quirkless, which is a small majority of 0.0004%, and the ones who were born would suicide or be killed off by the age of 13 to 14. Naruto was disappointed in the views of society where power and fortune is the only importance. Naruto was about to pass through a park when he heard the sounds of small-scale explosions and looked to his right to see a bruised green-haired child on the floor with burned marks, bruised skin, and 3 other children standing over him with cocky smirks as the blonde one said, "I hope that teaches you a lesson, quirkless Deku," with the other 2 laughing. Naruto was getting angrier each second and was about to teach the 3 kids a lesson when he heard the nearby adult say, "And isn't that the quirkless kid who lives in the apartment? There are still these freaks around. I should keep my kids far away from him." I heard few people living in the same apartment even moved out from there. Why doesn't the owner kick the trash and his family out? Apparently the apartment is owned by the child's mother. I heard the boy's father divorced his mother for giving 𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗺 to a quirkless kids. Naruto was shocked hearing all the adults. He gritted his teeth as he could see and remember his childhood self in the same situation, but was never beaten by anyone, maybe pushed around, but no one laid hands on him and just ignored and sneered his existence. The adult then started leaving and the 3 boys also left the green-haired child bleeding on the ground. Kurama then informed Naruto, "Oh Naruto, snap out of it. The child will bleed to death if you don't help him." Naruto came back to reality as he ran towards the child and slowly lifted him and checked his pulse and injuries. Naruto then in his head said, "It's too late, Kurama. The injuries are too severe. The kid will die unless he has someone like Yo." Naruto then got idea. Naruto then said, "Oi Kurama, how would you feel if this kid becomes your next host?" Kurama was shocked with the sudden question but could see where Naruto came from. This child resembles Naruto in lots of ways. And Kurama was sure he can heal the child from the injuries, but he couldn't bring himself to leave Naruto when they have been together for more than 4,500 years. Naruto then thought, I know this seems shocking to you, but I don't have a place in this world anymore, Kurama. I can at least sacrifice myself for the future generation, but you have a place in this world still. You can nurture the future, and I am sure this kid will be someone you can view as myself in the future, but we don't have much time, Kurama. You have to decide quickly. Kurama then became silent as he responded, Come to the mindscape, Naruto. Naruto then finished sealing Izuku's body in a stasis seal so it doesn't get worse and teleported to his flying thunder god Kunai. He set up in his home and sat down as he went into his mindscape. Naruto arrived in his mindscape as he looked at Kurama, who was looking at him with a small smile, and Kurama said, We have been through countless journeys together, Naruto, and I can see that your eyes get dimmer by each year passing. I guess it's finally time to use that and join your father and grandfather. And this will be my way of atoning for many things I did before you were born. I will train the warriors of the future. You just watch me. Kurama then put his fist forward for a fist bump as Naruto smiled with a small tear running down his cheek and fist bumped Kurama as they stared at each other for a few seconds as Naruto said, Right, it's time for me to leave Earth, as Kurama nodded and Naruto then left his mindscape and came back to reality. Naruto then went through a set of hand signs and then placed his palm on Izuku as same seal which is on Naruto's stomach was formed on Izuku's stomach without the need of a key. Naruto can't seal the Kurama fully in the seal by himself, and the only way to do it is to summon the god of death Shinigami, who will seal Kurama alongside Naruto. Naruto then went through a set of seals as black smoke erupted out of him and became the form of the Shinigami as Naruto said, I sacrifice myself for you to remove 𝗬𝗵𝗃 from my seal and seal it in this young child. The Shinigami smiled madly. He removed the 𝗬𝗵𝗃 out of Naruto, who experienced immense pain cause of it, and then sealed it in the 8 trigram seal on Izuku with the help of Naruto as the Shinigami then clasped onto Naruto with his scythe and swallowed him. Kurama, as soon as he felt the shift, opened his life and saw that he was not in a sewage mindscape of Naruto but in an appealing meadow filled with grass and a few trees and thought, wow, this kid has one hell of a mind. And then immediately worked on healing the child with his chakra and saw that he could only access his yin half and not the yang half and thought, Naruto must have sealed that half with a bit of his chakra so he can meet the child in the future and unlock it for him. Kurama was glad since the child is quirkless, meaning his life force is chakra since there is no other source. And Kurama's yin chakra will only enhance the coils instead of corrupting like his yang's chakra does. Kurama kept healing the child for a while as Izuku recovered mostly except for a few scars which Kurama couldn't heal. After 3 days, Izuku slowly opened his eyes as he heard a voice in his mind say, Welcome back to the land of living child. Third person POV. Izuku just looked at what was in front of him for a second and screamed, a big fox, and tried running away as fast as he can. Kurama was just looking at the scene with a small smile as he caught the running kid with his hand and brought him up to his eyes. Izuku, who was caught, was waving his little hands everywhere as he said, Please don't eat me, 𝗵𝗃. I am not very tasty. Fox chuckled a bit as he said, Oi kid, I am not here to eat you, so calm down, okay? Izuku, who heard the fox, opened his eyes with a curious expression and said, Really? You are not going to eat me, Mr. Fox? Kurama shook his head and Izuku let out a huge breath of relief and said, Hello, Mr. Fox. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Kurama nodded his head as he slowly put Izuku on the ground and said, Hello, child. My name is Kurama, or 𝗬𝗵𝗃 the nine-tailed fox. Izuku then looked around as he said, Where am I, Mr. Kurama? The last I remember was I was at a playground being beaten up by Kaken and his friends and is the kid I was trying to save, okay? Kurama was thinking of what to tell the boy and then decided and said, Well boy, I am your quirk, like one of those sentient quirks. I cannot appear outside you but I can give my power for you to use it. Izuku, as in a daze as he asked while shaking, Are you telling me the truth, Mr. K. Kurama? B. But the doctor said that I will never gain a QQ quirk in my life. Kurama's gaze softened. He understood what the kid was feeling. Kurama patted the head of the boy softly with his huge hand which has fur. Kurama then said, I am not lying, kid. There might be some things I am not telling, but you have to grow up to hear those. For now I will help you, okay? Don't inform anyone though. Izuku nodded his head faster than ever and said, "But Mr. Kurama, I must inform my mother though. She always worries about me." Kurama then remembered about the fact that Izuku is quirkless, so he has chakra as life source. Kurama then came up with a mini lie and told, "Since I am inside you, meaning the energy that I have is also with you as your life source, you can train in that too as well as my energy, but we will put off training my energy till future when you grow. Until then, you focus on the training the energy inside you." Little Izuku nodded his head excitedly as he said, "Then I can tell Mom that my quirk is controlling an energy inside my body then. I hope I can learn a lot as a student from you, Mr. Kurama." Kurama smiled as he said, "I hope I can help you become a hero then, kid." Izuku then put forward his fist forward as he smiled and said, "I am glad I met you, Mr. Kurama." Kurama froze for a bit as he stared at the fist and then gave a smirk as he put forward his fist and gave the kid a fist bump, making the small child tumble back and fall on his butt. Releasing a small chuckle, Kurama then said, "Well kid, we are not done yet. We need to unlock your energy for you to control and use it." Izuku brought himself back up as he said, "Whoa. How do I do that, Mr. Kurama?" Kurama then thought about it for a minute and said, "I will tell you later, kid. First you got to get home. Your parent must be worried. You were in unconscious for 3 days." Izuku then began to run around in panic as he yelled, Is gonna be worried. How do I get back? Where am I?" He then stops and looks at Kurama, who is amused with the situation, and asked him, "Mr. Kurama, how do I get out from here?" Kurama then smirked as he said, "Well kid, just imagine yourself leaving the place since we are in your mind after all." Izuku nodded his head as he then closed his eyes to concentrate a bit. Izuku opened his eyes to see he is in some type of cave. He looked around as he heard, "Yo kid, remember the location of this cave, okay? The opening has a illusion, so you need to know the location to come back here." Izuku was confused as he asked, "Why do I need to come back here, Mr. Kurama, and you can speak with me?" Kurama then answered, "You don't have to speak loud, kid. I can hear your thoughts. Just think when you have to speak to me, or else others will think you are a weirdo." Izuku then thought, "I understand, Mr. Kurama." Kurama then said, "Good, you need to know this place because there are many things around which are related to the energy you have. You can learn from it once you unlock your energy. It was written by the person I was previously inside. I came inside you after he died." Izuku could feel that Kurama was a bit sad speaking about the death of his predecessor and said, "I understood, Mr. Kurama. I will make sure to remember this place." Izuku then walked out and looked behind to see that there was no entrances, but when he put his hand there, his hand went inside. Izuku then went towards the cliff in front of him and saw the whole of Mustafa town. Izuku then awed looking at the scenery and then looked around to see if there was any road in sight. Izuku then saw some of the heroes searching around the place, taking a deep breath and then yelled, "Hello, Mr. Crosswire, please help." The hero heard the voice and deducting that it was of a little kid and looked at the direction to see a small kid with green hair waving his hands. The hero was happy since they found the kid they were looking for and then pulled out an intercom as he pressed the speech button and said, "Guys, I see the kid. He is on the cliff side just north to me. Swift. Fly to the kid and bring him to us." He got a yes as a response from Swift. But hold on. Why are heroes searching for the kid and not the police, you might be asking? Let's go 3 days back to Enko's POV. Izuku. Can you hear me? I have searched every corner near the park but I can't find Izuku. I have asked around but everyone respond that they didn't see him. It's 8 p.m, he was supposed to be back by 5 p.m. Maybe I should call Mitsuki now, she will know how to help me. I dialed Mitsuki's number as the phone rang for a few seconds and I heard a voice, "Hello Inko. It's rare for you to call when it is this late." Inko then hurriedly said, "Oh my god Mitsuki, I don't know what to do. Izuku hasn't come home till now and I have searched the whole park but didn't find him." I then heard Mitsuki from the phone who replied, "What? But Katsuki came home on time. I will ask my son and come there, just wait a few minutes." The phone call was ended as I sat down on the bench. I don't know what to do, please be safe Izuku. Third person POV. We see in Bakugo's household as Mitsuki just ended the call, she immediately ran to her son's room and slammed open the door as she asked, "Katsuki, "Have you seen Izuku? He is missing right now. His mother is searching everywhere." Katsuki acted shocked, but he thought, "I hope I didn't accidentally blast him to death. But why does Aunt Inko even care for that useless Deku anyways?" Katsuki then replied, "No, old hag, I have left before him. I don't know what happened." Mitsuki could see that her son wasn't worried much for his best friend and became a bit suspicious but forgot because her nephew is still missing. She immediately went to her bedroom and woke up her husband and said, "Masaru, wake up. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 called me and said Izuku is missing. We have to help find him." Masaru, who just woke up, only heard the words "Izuku is missing" and his eyes shot up. He immediately got out of the bed. The couple changed their clothes and went running out of the house since the park is nearby. Katsuki, who saw them running from his window, sneered as he said, "Why do they even care for a quirkless Deku like him? They should be glad he is gone." Mitsuki and Masaru reached the park and saw Inko in tears on a bench crying. Mitsuki ran to her and hugged Inko as she said, "Don't worry, Inko, we will find Izuku soon. Let's go to the police office." The three ran to the nearby police station. Inside the police station we see three men who are playing pokers. All three are a bit obese, which is obvious from their uniforms, looking ready to tear away. The middle one said, "Man, I am glad I became a police. Heroes are doing our work. All we have to do is little work and the pay is good too." The other two laughed as Mitsuki barged into the PS and the three then became alert, and from the right corner, the officer asked, "What is the problem, ma'am?" Mitsuki hurriedly answered, "Officer, my friend's child is missing. He is only 5-year-old boy and his name is 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗄." The officer then looked at his companion and said, "Run the database and search the name 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗄 and print out his details and picture." The one who received the command got to word as Inko and Masaru was sitting in the lobby waiting to hear from the cops or Mitsuki. The cop who was going through database saw the kid's details, and when he saw the quirk description, he immediately thought, "Why waste our time for a freak? Better tell the chief to pass the case to heroes." The office got the print and whispered in his chief's ear, "Chief, it says that the kid is quirkless. It better to hand it to the heroes than waste our time on some trash kid." The chief also agreed as they went towards Mitsuki, and the chief said, "I am sorry, ma'am. You have to take this case to the detectives or heroes. That area is not under our jurisdiction. I don't think we can save this kid." Mitsuki wanted to immediately argue, but from the way the man mentioned Izuku, she knew that this is another one of those who think quirkless are trash. Rather than wasting her time, she thought it would be better to not waste time and go to nearby hero agency. She did say one thing though, "I hope you better have a good excuse when you get a call from the head commissioners." The chief panicked and was gonna stop her, but Mitsuki already stormed out of their third-person POV. Mitsuki, Inko and Masaru just left the police station as they ran towards a nearby hero agency. Mitsuki then said, "I can't believe they are letting the fact that Izuku is quirkless is the deciding factor for them to take up a case. And this happened right in the same neighborhood. How dare they lie that the area is not in their jurisdiction?" Masaru, who was just as angry but was less vocal about it, said, "I will make sure to call the head inspector and inform this so he can take care of those people at the station." Mitsuki, still fuming, nodded her head as she looked at Inko, who was running ahead of her with tears constantly rolling down her face. They arrived at a hero agency called the Walkers, which is quite well known in the area for the number of heroes in the agency and their efforts to keep the neighborhood safe. Inko and Mitsuki rushed in as Masaru stopped outside to call the head inspector. Mitsuki and Inko came to the reception as Mitsuki yelled, "Please, you have to help us. My friend's son is missing. He is only 5-year-old. We searched the surrounding but didn't find him till now." The receptionist immediately pressed a blue button as an alarm rang, and in a few seconds, some of the available heroes gathered as the receptionist explained them the situation. The heroes then came towards Inko as one of the male hero asked, "Ma'am, do you have his recent picture for us to identify him and some details?" Inko nodded as she gave the picture of Izuku over to the heroes and told them a few of his constant habits. The hero who saw the picture then said, "All right, make copies of this photo," and everyone set out immediately. A chorus of yes were heard as the heroes set out immediately. Inko fell down on her knees completely exhausted as the receptionist and Mitsuki helped her to a sofa. Masaru then came in and told them that those 3 officers will definitely get deserved punishment. For the next 2 days, The heroes searched the whole of Mustafa City as they didn't come across Izuku until one of them had the idea to search the hill area. The heroes decided to go there as soon as the sun rises since it's already dark out. The next day afternoon, the heroes were still searching the hill and forest area as one of the heroes heard a kid's voice yell, "Hello, Mr. Crosswire, please help." Back to present. Swift brought Izuku from the hill range as the heroes kept asking questions as to what happened, but Izuku only answered, "Please take me to my mom. I want to see her quick," with tears as the heroes decided to have the interrogation after reuniting the kid to his mother. The heroes then returned to the forest entrance as they carefully Izuku to Inko's address. After reaches the front gate of the apartment, Izuku quickly opened the car door and dashed out of the car and ran towards his apartment as the hero Swift flew up to the first floor as rang the doorbell. The door was opened and Izuku came face to face to Mitsuki Baku. Mitsuki was stunned for a moment but immediately cried happily as she scooped up Izuku from the ground and hugged him tightly while crying from happiness. Inko and Masaru heard the commotion as they came to the hallway and saw Mitsuki bear hugging Izuku. Inko immediately burst forwards as she scooped Izuku from Mitsuki and proceeded to hug Izuku tightly as both the mother and son started crying in their embrace. After a while, everyone is assembled in the hall with heroes on the big couch and Inko on a sofa with Izuku on her lap as she is still hugging him. The hero Crosswire them asked, "Now ma'am, is it okay if we interrogate little Izuku?" Inko nodded but remembered one thing as she put down Izuku and said, "Izuku, let me remove your shirt to see if you have any injuries." I immediately answered in a bit of a scared tone and said, "No, I didn't get hurt at all, I am okay." Inko just answered, "For mama's sake, let me check please Izu-chan." Izuku started freaking out as he tried to not make his mom remove his long-sleeve t-shirt, but the effort was futile as Mitsuki held his hands and legs as Inko immediately pulled off his t-shirt. The scene in front of the heroes and the parents were not pretty was Izuku had a giant scar on his chest which was in shape of random spikes around a round surface area. There was also many other similar but smaller scars around his arms and stomach and quite a bit of bruising too. Inko let out a cry as she asked, "Izuku, what happened?" Izuku just stayed silent as he tried to cover up his body with his arms as the heroes and the Bakugo adults snapped out of their stupor as one of the heroes came forward and said, "Miss Inko, can I please check your son? I have experience in medical field, maybe I can see what kind of scaring it was." Inko just nodded silently with her hands clenched as the female hero went towards Yuku, still trying and failing to hide his scars with his hands as the hero with a bit of force held Izuku's hand and inspected the scars. Contemplating for a while, the hero turned to others and said, "I have observed these kinds of scarring on people who have survived explosion even after being in range of impact. This is most likely the work of a kind of explosion quirk. But the fascinating thing is that his body is completely fine as though his injuries were treated but only the scars were left." This put off everyone since there was no way that someone can be treated within a short period of time. Izuku then suddenly said, I have 𝗂𝗍𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 Izuku. Izuku then smiled as he said, "Yes, Aunt Mitsuki, my quirk is being able to control the internal energy in my body." One of the heroes asked, "This might be a chance that his sudden quirk awakening might be the solution for this healing." The heroes couldn't help but agree since quirks were always mysterious and there was no other lead for them to figure out how Izuku was healed at an abnormal rate. Kurama, who watched the scene unfold, immediately realized that Izuku said his quirk in order to distract the adults from asking him more questions which might make him reveal what truly happened. Thought, "This kid is too kind and forgiving for his own good. I can't let this go on and affect the kid's growth. Seems like I have to reveal myself earlier than expected." Kurama then took over Izuku immediately. This was only possible since Izuku's mind is weak at present and vulnerable. For other, Izuku's head immediately went down as Inko quickly asked, "Izuku, what happened?" Izuku then rose his head up as everyone were surprised as they saw two crimson eyes instead of his emerald ones. They then heard Izuku say, "Fear not, everyone. Kid lied a bit about his quirk, but that was according to my instruction. I am Izuku's quirk. I am like one of those sentient quirks. I cannot appear outside Izuku, but I can give my power for him to use it. But Izuku didn't completely lie since I awakened inside him. He also has internal energy. I took over his body since he is not willing to reveal anything that happened to him. Everyone was astonished as they asked him more questions about himself as Izuku's quirk. Kurama cleared the doubts and also said that he can only take over Izuku when his mind power is weak and vulnerable. Everyone finally calmed down as Mitsuki finally asked, "What really happened, Kurama-san?" Kurama as Izuku then answered, "As you know, I was dormant inside Izuku waiting for him to age up so he can awaken me, but I can see his life. After he was declared quirkless, he was completely ignored and mistreated by his class peers and teacher who also ignored him. People also in his neighborhood will silently whisper about him behind his back and made their children avoid him like a plague." Izuku heard everything but just kept smiling and went along as if nothing is wrong, but he started thinking that others were true. Inko fell on her knees as she said, "My poor boy has went through this but never said anything to me. I couldn't even see the pain and his makeshift smile." She started crying as Kurama then said, "It's not your fault, Ms. Inko. Izuku was never physically bullied until recently, so there was no way you could know since Izuku always put on a wide smile even when he heard the whispers about him." Inko could only nod weakly as Mitsuki caught on to the words and seriously asked, "Wait, you said never physically bullied until recently, what do you mean?" Kurama then said, "Mitsuki-san, these scars were the result of 3 kids beating him as they wanted for hours till they left." Mitsuki then felt dread as he slowly but shakingly asked, "Was Katsuki one of them?" Inko and Masaru immediately turned to Mitsuki as they said, "How could you say that? Mitsuki, Izuku and Katsuki are best of friends." Yes dear. Katsuki might be brash but I am sure he won't bully his best friend since birth." Kurama cut of Masaru as he said, "Yes, you are correct, Mitsuki-san. What happened 3 days ago was your son leading a group of 2 kids and himself were bullying a kid until Izuku came over and said you son to stop being mean to others, but your son and his group decided to shift their target to Izuku as your son fiercely used his quirk on Izuku till he was in near dead state. That was when I was able to awaken and sacrificed half of myself to restore Izuku and took control as I went into the hills till Izuku can heal, which took 3 days." Important note, after Kurama was transferred to Izuku, he got Izuku's memories so he came up with the dormant quirk stuff, and the incident narrated to not let Naruto's identity be disclosed. Mitsuki and Masaru were frozen in shock as they fell to the ground as Inko just fainted from the emotional roller coaster. The heroes were also shocked, but one of them said, "I am sorry, but we have to hand over your son and his group to the court, Miss and Mr. Bakugo. Only they can decide the judgment." The Bakugo adults just stayed silent as they decided to third-person POV. The Bakugo couple decided as Masaru said, "This is also our fault, and we should take responsibility too, but is there a way our Katsuki can't face severe punishment?" A hero familiar with parenting as said, "This is not a behavior a 5-year-old can have. Maybe your child was influenced by someone in order to get this way. I know a police interrogator with a quirk which makes anyone he asks a question answer with only the truth, but it can be only used on one person only in a day. I can call him to help us." Everyone agreed as the hero who gave a suggestion went out of the room to make the call while Mitsuki and Masaru were crying as they were apologizing to Inko and Izuku, who regained control as Kurama retracted his control. Inko was trying to get them to stop as Izuku was confused as to what just happened. He blacked out, and when he came to, he was seeing his aunt and uncle crying and apologizing to him. The hero came in as he said, "The interrogator decided to meet you in front of your house, Miss Bakugo. We will leave the case to the interrogator. I feel like the less people, the better for you guys." Mitsuki nodded as she said, "I thank you for your consideration. And thanks to all the heroes here for helping us find my nephew." The Bakugo adults and Inko bowed their heads as the heroes said their goodbyes and left. The Bakugo adults and the Midoriyas started walking towards the Bakugo household. After a few minutes, the 4 people arrived as they saw a man in front of the Bakugo household. Mitsuki went up to the man and asked, "Excuse me, are you the interrogator we hero Swift told us about?" The man nodded and said, "Yes, Miss Bakugo. I also saw the details sent by Swift. Here is my license." Mitsuki nodded as they all entered into the house. Katsuki, who was in his room, heard the door open and rushed down to greet his parents. Katsuki came into the hall with a cocky smirk as he asked, "Has Deku been found yet?" Mitsuki was shaking in anger as she saw Katsuki's way of asking for Izuku. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 then opened his eyes and flinched, seeing his aunt 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and Izuku right in front of his parents, with Izuku hiding behind his aunt, and thought, "Did the useless nerd snitch on me? Bah, they won't consider quirkless Deku's words anyways." Mitsuki turned to the interrogator as she nodded at him, and the interrogator walked towards 𝗧𝗵𝗃 and stood in front of him as 𝗧𝗵𝗃 intimidated a little by the tall man asked in his usual tone, "And who is this geezer?" The interrogator sighed as he focused his eyes, which glowed blue, and asked 𝗧𝗵𝗃, "Now you will answer all my questions for the next hour with only the truth." 𝗧𝗵𝗃 was weirded out and asked, "What the hell is this creepy geezer doing, old hag?" Mitsuki just went behind 𝗧𝗵𝗃 as she firmly held his hands to prevent him from running around. The interrogator then asked, "Now, is it true that you have used your quirk multiple times on Izuku Midoriya with intention to severely harm him 3 days ago?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃 tried to lie by trying to saying he doesn't know what this geezer is talking about him, but his mouth automatically answered, "Yes, I did." Mitsuki flinched as tears were slowly coming out, but she firmly held onto 𝗧𝗵𝗃 as he yelled, "What the hell is going on? Why is my mouth answering on I's own? Hag, I didn't do anything to Deku." Mitsuki ignored him as the interrogator asked, "Why do you call Izuku Midoriya as Deku?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃's mouth again automatically answered, "Because he is quirkless and a freak and useless, so he is a Deku." Mitsuki started taking large breaths in order to calm herself down as the interrogator asked, "Why do you think yourself better than Izuku Midoriya?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃 at this point gave up as he glared at Izuku, and his mouth said, "Because he is a quirkless freak while I am born with a great quirk and everyone praises me while they hate him." 𝗵𝗃𝗃 was sobbing while hugging her son, who was trying to console her. The interrogator then asked, "What do you think about your classmates?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃's mouth answered, "They are just stepping stones meant for me to climb over to be the strongest hero." The interrogator sighed as he finally asked, "Why do you bully other kids?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃's mouth answered, "Obviously because they got weak, useless, and freakish quirks. They don't deserve to be in same place as me, the future #1 hero." Even the interrogator was mad at this point, but asked another question, "How do you feel about Izuku Midoriya been found and your parents and aunt working hard to find him these past 3 days?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃's mouth answered, "I wish that Deku just died. He is a freak anyways. I don't know why old hag and old man even bother to care to search for a quirkless freak when they have a perfect child with them, and Aunt 𝗵𝗃𝗃 should have just left Deku to die or starve." Mitsuki with shivering arms let go of 𝗧𝗵𝗃 as she was muttering to herself, How did my child become like this? Is this my fault?" Masaru couldn't help his wife because he was also lamenting the same way as his wife, whereas 𝗵𝗃𝗃 was horrified by what she heard from who she viewed as her good nephew and her son's best friend. Even the interrogator couldn't believe what he was hearing from a 5-year-old. He then asked, "Why do you think that Izuku Midoriya should just die?" 𝗧𝗵𝗃 then laughed as his mouth answered, "I mean, everyone in this neighborhood and school hate that Deku. Why should I not hate him too? He ruins my figure being in the same class as me, and he dares looks down on me and try to help me when he is just a useless freak." The interrogator finally deactivated his quirk as 𝗧𝗵𝗃, who was free from his mother's arms, then jumped at Izuku yelling, "You quirkless freak! You dare snitch on me! I should have killed you, but I will now." Suddenly 𝗧𝗵𝗃 stopped moving midair as his outline was glowing pink as the Bakuga family looked at 𝗵𝗃𝗃, who was glaring death at 𝗧𝗵𝗃 with tears in her eyes as she said, "You dare to come near my child? I will not control myself." The detective placed quirk-canceling bracelets on 𝗧𝗵𝗃 as Masaru tied him up on a chair as 𝗧𝗵𝗃 started shouting, "Release me, old man. Why do you guys even care for that quirkless freak? You should be glad that I am killing him." Masaru brought out some tape as he taped 𝗧𝗵𝗃's mouth shut as he fell onto his knees sobbing. Mitsuki came to console her husband, but she has also started crying again. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 then said, "I am gonna sell that apartment complex and move somewhere far away where no one lives. I will take care of Izuku's education online after consulting some schools. I can't allow my child to grow in such a tainted community." The Bakugo adults couldn't look at 𝗵𝗃𝗃 in her eyes as they nodded. The interrogator sighed as he looked at Masaru and said, "Mr. Masaru, I think it's better for you as a head judge to make judgment right now. What will happen to your child? I am pretty sure that you don't want this matter to go public." Masaru whipped off his tears as he answered, "Since there was a clear evidence that Katsuki Bakugo is responsible for attempt to murder, bullying, illegal usage of quirk, but due to being massively influenced by society around him and not properly guided by his parents, and since the child is still very young, he has to go through rehabilitation and will wear quirkless bracelets for the rest of his childhood till teenage. His behavior will be monitored closely, and if there is no improvement in himself, he will be proceeded to jail as he reaches teenage. It is advised for him to change schools and his family to move to another city. The family is to pay a fine of $10,000 towards the victim's family as compensation. The interrogator nodded as he gave his regards and left. 𝗵𝗃 also left after failing to control herself around 𝗧𝗵𝗃. The police came after an hour as they placed quirkless bracelet on 𝗧𝗵𝗃 and a camera on a bracelet on his hand, only to be removed during toilet time, bath time. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 was yelled at by his parents as they tried to make him understand what he did was wrong, but 𝗧𝗵𝗃 was just confused to why his parents even bother about the quirkless freak. Sorry that the chapter is a bit small today, but it is only to specify about 𝗧𝗵𝗃 revealing everything and his punishment. The next chapter will be out after a week since I will be on a trip for next 5 days. Third person POV. Right after 𝗵𝗃 and Izuku got home, 𝗵𝗃 started crying while hugging Izuku and apologizing immensely for various things, as Izuku also started crying as he felt like a burden got off his shoulders as he was tired of not showing his mother how sad he was while listening to people hating on him and his mother. After a while, 𝗵𝗃 calmed down as she then went to 𝗲𝗧𝗏 elementary school and went straight to the principal's office as she first signed a letter to drop out her son from that school and said to the principal that they will definitely suffer the consequences, but the principal ignored that threat since it is from a quirkless child's mother and he can just bribe the police who will not be interested in the case anyways. After that, 𝗵𝗃 went back to the apartment and called out a meeting for all the tenants. The tenants living here were at least neutral to Izuku as they didn't hate nor like him but treated him like a human at least. 𝗵𝗃 then explained what happened to Izuku, but in place of 𝗧𝗵𝗃 she placed a random person as she told the tenants. The people were shocked as they started asking questions to whether Izuku is fine or not, but 𝗵𝗃 said that Izuku is fine but decided not to come out of his room for the time being, and he also finally got his quirk. The tenants congratulated 𝗵𝗃 on her son getting a quirk he yearned. 𝗵𝗃 then told about her decision to sell the apartment complexes. The tenants were worried since 𝗵𝗃 was a good owner and never took any extra rent from them in the form of maintenance, but 𝗵𝗃 reassured that she will make sure another good person will be the owner. Afterwards, the tenants asked why she chose to sell of the apartments. 𝗵𝗃 answered about her decision with Izuku. The people approved and told her that they will give the month's rent even if it is too early, as the month just began and they already paid their rent, but chose to help her at least a little with finance. 𝗵𝗃 cried in happiness as some of her friends consoled her and told that they will help her in future as they apologized for not being a better neighbors for Izuku. 𝗵𝗃 smiled and reassured that she is not angry at them and told them that she was glad that they at least treated Izuku like a normal person, unlike most of the people in the nearby houses and the city. 𝗵𝗃 then went to an agency to hire an agent so that he can get a deal on the apartment for her on her conditions. Time skipped to 1 week after 𝗳𝗃 hired an agent. The agent tried his best the week, but no one accepted 𝗵𝗃's terms as they saw that she was being too soft. The agent grumbled about the greedy people since he himself lives in her apartment and feels like 𝗵𝗃's terms are fair and just. He then started giving out advertisements online. We then move on to 𝗳𝗧𝗏 Group's owner, Mr. Akira 𝗳𝗧𝗏. One of the richest people on earth with industries and companies set up worldwide, has a secret that no one knows except his wife. He is quirkless too, but his parents covered up that fact by having his quirk listed as business IQ, and trained him in business fields so that the cover-up will work. Akira was looking to buy apartments or a huge empty field so he can construct an apartment to his company employees at an affordable rent rate, since many of his employees live in apartments who take unfair amount of money from them in the form of repairs. He heard about these while viewing the hidden cameras in the lunch area. Those hidden cameras are generally to clear out any bad worms in the company. He just came across an advertisement for sale of 4 apartment complexes. He saw the images and saw that they were well maintained and spacious. He then called for his secretary and told her to see if anyone in the company presently lives in that apartment, and if they do, then asked them to meet him. After an hour, the secretary came back with a 30-year-old man. The man looked nervous even though he knew why he was called here. Akira asked about the present owner of the apartments the man was staying at. The man told him how she was with them and about her struggles being a single mom of a quirkless child. Akira gave full attention once he heard that the owner has a quirkless child and slowly started interrogating his employee. The employee, with the hope that director can help the 𝗵𝗃 family, told everything that 𝗵𝗃 has told them and left after Akira told that he needs some time to process. After the man left, Akira has an unreadable face, a 5-year kid introduced to these horrors in life just cause he was quirkless. Akira could only think how he could have been in the kid's place if it wasn't for his parents. Akira decided that he will buy the apartment complex along with agreeing with the present owner's rules. He can always add a few more complexes since the land also had a lot of empty space. The present price for the complex is $400 million, which was fair considering the huge space and the 4-15-storied complexes, each floor having 4 double-bedroomed rooms. Meaning, each complex has 60 individual living spaces, and combined with other 3 complexes. That is a total of 240 individual double bedrooms. Akira then contacted the agent who was acting as the mediator in the whole transaction and asked them to arrange a meeting between Akira and Mrs. 𝗵𝗃. The agent agreed as he informed the news to Ms. 𝗵𝗃. 𝗵𝗃 agreed to meet the potential buyer the next day. 𝗵𝗃 was also shocked that someone of such a high caliber is interested in the sale of her apartment. The next day, it was 9 a.m. in the morning as 𝗵𝗃 is waiting at the entrance gate of the community. A black armored Mercedes-Benz limousine rolled up along with SCRT vehicles. Bodyguards came out of the SCRT vehicle and opened the door to the limousine as 2 black-haired adults, 1 male and 1 female looking to be in their early 30s, came out along with a 5-year-old girl with a spiky ponytail who was hiding behind her mother's leg. 𝗵𝗃 was wearing her usual outfit. Akira was wearing a black suit and his wife was wearing a women's suit. 𝗵𝗃 nudged her son on the head who was hiding behind her as Izuku came out from behind her and said, "Hello Mr. and Miss Yaoyorozu, my name is Izuku 𝗵𝗃." With a curt bow as 𝗵𝗃 also bowed a little and said, "And my name is Izuku 𝗵𝗃, the present owner of this community." The Yaoyorozu family also gave a curt bow as Akira came forward and said, "Hello 𝗵𝗃 family, my name is Akira and here is my wife Athena and my daughter Momo." Momo gave a shy wave as 𝗵𝗃 smiled and said, "Please come in, would you want to see the property first?" Akira nodded and said, "We would like to see the property and if it is possible, how about having little Izuku show our daughter to the playground? They will be bored with us." 𝗵𝗃 thought about it a little and turned to Izuku who had a nervous expression and said, "Well son, why don't you go play with Momo-chan in the playground then?" Izuku slowly nodded as he walked before Momo and said, "Do you want to play with me?" Momo gave a shy nod as she said with a small voice, I would like to play with you." Izuku gave a smile as he said, "Please follow me to the playground," and started running as Momo let out a surprised and ran behind trying to keep up. The adults watched their kids run off with a smile as Akira asked a few bodyguards to follow the kids and let 𝗵𝗃 show them the community. After an hour, the tour was done as the adults were a bit exhausted and 𝗵𝗃 invited them to her house for a rest and some tea as the Yaoyorozu couple accepted. After a while, 𝗵𝗃 has served them the tea as Akira then said, "Ms. 𝗵𝗃, the community is nice and well maintained, the foundations are also solid for any future expansion." 𝗵𝗃 smiled as she said, "Well, my father owned a construction company, he then as a gift for me built this community and sold off his company." Akira nodded for the explanation as Athena then asked, "Well Miss 𝗵𝗃, how about you tell us about little Izuku?" 𝗵𝗃 put on a complicated expression as she said, "It's not easy to explain for me." Akira then sent a signal to the guards to leave the room. After the guards left the rooms, Akira then smiled and said, "Don't worry Miss 𝗵𝗃, please don't reveal it to anyone, but I am also a quirkless person. My parents hid the fact by having it written as my quirk is business IQ. I have heard about your situation from one of my employees living in your community. I can't express how I felt when I heard how a child, 5 years old no less, has to suffer this much." 𝗵𝗃 smiled as a tear slid off her eye as she explained to them about all that has happened to Izuku, excluding Bakugo from it again. Akira and Athena listened attentively as they heard how much Izuku was discriminated by the school, police, people and kids. At the end, 𝗵𝗃𝗁 was sobbing quietly as 𝗧𝗑𝗏 was trying to console her with a hug. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 then explained her plan about moving to a place a bit away from the city with no one around in order to let Izuku grow without his fears. Akira then said, "I do have a villa in the hills behind where I live, miss. It also has no one else living in the surroundings. And since it also comes in part of my property, it is also secure from thieves. I can sell it for you since I do have no use for it." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 then thanked Akira for his offer. Akira then said the price is $1.8 million. As 𝗵𝗃𝗁 said, "You can deduct the villa price from the price at which you will be purchasing this community." Akira nodded as he said, "I am glad that our kids can meet. Momo is always isolated from others for her safety and homeschooled, so she hasn't met a lot of kids her age." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 nodded as she said, "Izuku used to have a lot of friends till his status of being quirkless got out. Bet he doesn't have to suffer that anymore." Akira with a tone dipped in confusion asked, "May I ask why?" 𝗵𝗃𝗁 smiled as she said, "Now my son got a quirk. It's a sentient quirk living inside his body, and as a side effect his body created a energy which can be used in many ways." Akira smiled as he said, "That is really good. I hope little Izuku can recover from what happened till now." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 let out a small smile as she said, "Well, Izuku chose to not talk unless I tell him to, or unless it's a person close to him. He is scared that even if he got his quirk, he would still be hurt if he gets close to anyone." Akira sighed as 𝗧𝗑𝗏 spoke, "Such misfortune at a tender age of 5. I hope our Momo and Izuku-chan can help each other even if it's a little." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 smiled as she said, "I hope that too. It's been a while, guys. As I announced I'm done with my important exam, I am gonna upload almost daily but enjoy a new chap of Green Flash. Third-person POV. Izuku and Momo have just arrived in the playground, and Izuku is still keeping a bit of distance away, not wanting to get close easily to the new girl as he said, This is the P playground where all the kids in the 𝗂𝗧 apartment playing." Momo looked around in awe at the well-maintained swings, slides, ladders, a few mixed ones as she said, This is my first time in a playground. I always liked books in the library." Izuku could relate a bit as when he stopped going outside since all his friends turned on him, he also started reading more and more books. Izuku then saw Momo looking at him with a bright look of expectation as to see which they will play first. Izuku sighed as he pointed to the slide and ran towards it with Momo in tow. Izuku, even though is more cautious with people, is thinking, "This is a nice meeting." Time skip 2 hours. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 and Izuku were towards the limousine leaving from the gate as 𝗵𝗃𝗁 turned to Izuku and asked, "Well, Izuku, was Momo a nice playmate?" Izuku thought for a bit and said, "She is en nice mama, but what about my school?" 𝗵𝗃𝗁 then said, "Let's go in and then talk, Izuku." Izuku nodded and held his mom's hand as they went inside their room. Izuku and 𝗵𝗃𝗁 in their complex sat on the sofa as 𝗵𝗃𝗁 said, "Sweetie, for now I think it's best you get homeschooled till you are in your teens or 12 years old, that way you can have more time to train your quirk like your teacher wants you to." Izuku was shocked as he thought, Mr. Kurama, how does my mom know about you?" Kurama sighed as he answered, "Kid, you were too forgiving and were gonna let that explosive brat get away with what he did to you. He should have known the consequences, but he still did it. So I took control for a while and told everyone about my existence as a sentient quirk and teach you how to use chakra. They know it as internal energy though, not chakra." Izuku, still a bit peeved that Mr. Kurama told them everything, just sighed as he looked at his mom, who was giving him an amused look. Seeing all the interesting expressions that Izuku was giving out, Izuku then coughed to get attention and said, "I see, mama, this way I can grow quickly to be hero and not have faced those people again." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 could see how deeply her kid was affected unconsciously by everything that happened. She could only hope that Yaoyorozu family can light his heart a bit at least. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 then informed about the sale of apartment and where they are moving to in a month. Izuku nodded for everything as he was just about to leave, but from inside his mind he heard, "Kid, quick, ask your mom to buy you a calligraphy set and a few extra bottles of ink, ask questions later." Izuku, who was about to ask, nodded as he turned to his mom and asked, "Mom, Mr. Kurama is telling me to ask you to buy me a C calligraphy set and some extra B bottles of ink too." 𝗵𝗃𝗁 understood that and didn't need to ask why since she trusts Izuku's sentient quirk. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 pulled out her phone and looked online for a few options and bought a set which also provides extra ink and paper. Meanwhile, Izuku arrived in his room and sat on his bed as he mentally asked, "Why do I need a 𝗧𝗵𝗲 set, Mr. Kurama?" Kurama thought a bit and answered, "Well kid, my previous user was good at using chakra in various ways. I will tell them to you after you grow up bit, but we are gonna practice your handwriting with the brush, and for you to improve your learning calligraphy is the best for now." Izuku processed what Kurama said and answered back, "Okay Mr. Kurama, you are my teacher from now on, so I will learn whatever you teach me." Kurama grinned as he said, "Well brat, after tonight, when you sleep, I will pull you here and show you the basic of calligraphy. Don't worry about materials, you can imagine them appear since it's your mind." Izuku nodded as he played around with his toys but stopped after a few minutes as he was losing interest in them and turned on the computer to start watching about heroics before something was recommending to him on the home page of HeroTube. It was a video named Parkour and Speedrunning Basics for All Ages. Izuku mentally asked, "Will this be good for me to watch and try to learn Mr. Kurama?" Kurama looked and thought for a bit as he answered, It will be very good. Running and acrobatic exercises don't affect your growth, and it's a good way to build a stable body from when I actually start training you in conditioning your body." Izuku nodded as he added the video to his playlist for future reference before starting to watch the video. It showed the best way to slowly increase the leg power, speed and stamina of the body, and some exercises to help train the body in flexibility, and some steps on how to do a forward roll and backward roll. Izuku took out his notes and wrote them down in a scribbly manner. After a while, Inko called Izuku for dinner. Izuku went down and sat on the table where food was ready to be eaten. Time skip after dinner. Izuku went to his room and laid down on his bed and after a few minutes has fallen asleep. Kurama, seeing that Izuku has fallen asleep, has pulled him to his conscious as little Izuku arrived, a bit dazed with how he arrived but nothing painful. He looked in childish awe at the size of the fox with bunny-like ears and normal hands with nails. Izuku then said, "Wow, your tails look so big and fluffy." Kurama smiled a bit but said, "We will get to my tails at some other time, but for now let me show you the basic of calligraphy. Now let me summon a calligraphy set my size. You see it and try to summon it smaller, to fit for you." Izuku nodded as Kurama summoned himself a calligraphy set. Izuku tried to do the same and after a few attempts was successful. Kurama nodded and then said, "Here is how you make the ink. This thin black stick is the ink stick called 𝗬𝗵𝗲 stick, and the stone which you use is called 𝗧𝗏. You basically pour a little water as you rub the ink stick on the ink stone to prepare ink. Of course this is the tradition way, you don't necessarily need this method as you can buy ink of bottles outside, but I will show since it is more effective in near future." Izuku nodded as Kurama dipped the 𝗬𝗵𝗲 in water and started rubbing it forward on the 𝗧𝗏. Izuku started copying the action. After half an hour, Kurama followed by Izuku stopped as Kurama said, "Yash, that should be enough for you to practice here. Now take the brush and hold it in between the brush using 2 or 3 fingers." Kurama showed as Izuku with some difficulty managed to hold it. Kurama then instructed, "Now I will write the 44 basic of Japanese calligraphy. These are used to form the kanji for different seals that we will learn later. For now see as I write the basic and practice them for a week, I will then test you with them." Kurama slowly started displaying the on the paper so that Izuku can follow the hand movement. After 15 minutes Kurama was done and looked at Izuku's paper and saw that Izuku did well for a first-timer but had a few rookie mistakes which Kurama pointed out as Izuku just listened intently and nodded and went back to redo again and again. Time skip, 2 hours. Kurama has to applaud the patience of the boy who is still diligently practicing the basic. Kurama in the latest practice paper saw that Izuku was able to do it almost perfectly but a few mistakes on edges. Kurama smiled as he thought, "Nice to see the amount of dedication and patience the kid has, unlike all of my previous Jinchurikis. I can tell this kid will go far, surpassing Minato and Mito Uzumaki in the Fuinjutsu field. I shall slowly send my chakra in his muscles and bones while he does exercises, so I won't affect his natural growth but can make him fast. Very fast. A ninja must be fast in order to complete his mission." Kurama then called out to Izuku and said, "That is enough for now Izuku, you can sleep now, practice in your free time and don't forget how ink is made. It is much cheaper than buying ink bottles. Tell your mom to get the 𝗬𝗵𝗲 stick and ink stone, okay?" Izuku nodded as he asked, "How do I leave this place Mr. Kurama?" Kurama instead in explaining just sent a small burst of chakra sending Izuku back to real life. Izuku opened his eyes and saw he was in his bedroom and the time is 10 p.m. Izuku then closed his eyes and after a few minutes, has fallen asleep. Third person POV. Izuku woke up at 7 a.m., normal time for him, and went towards the kitchen and saw his mom was humming while preparing breakfast. Izuku slowly came behind her and gave her a hug as he said, "Good morning, Mom." 𝗵𝗃𝗄 smiled as she put aside the flat spoon and knelt down as to give Izuku a return hug and she said, "Good morning, Izuku, how was your sleep?" Izuku answered, "It was good, Mom. Sensei is starting to teach me of Japanese calligraphy." 𝗵𝗃𝗄 was suddenly a bit worried as she asked, "Oh, are you okay, sweetie? Do you still feel sleepy?" Izuku shook his head as he answered, "No, Mom, I feel the same as I always do when I wake up." 𝗵𝗃𝗄 let out a breath of relief that Izuku is still getting his healthy sleep despite him learning in his mind. Izuku then said, "Also, Mama, Sensei taught me how to make ink, so you don't have to buy all the costly ink bottles." 𝗵𝗃𝗄 seemingly interested asked, "Oh, and tell me how?" Izuku nodded as he explained about the ink stick and ink stone and that one ink stick can provide almost as much as 2 bottles of ink and that an ink stick is only $1. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 was shocked but happy that Izuku's quirk was able to teach such useful knowledge as she said, "Well, Izuku, I will buy only ink sticks from now on then, also some empty ink bottles to store the ink." Ding 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 asterisk. The sound of the doorbell was heard as 𝗵𝗃𝗄 exclaimed, "That must be the 𝗣𝗲𝗍𝗺 man with your calligraphy," said Izuku. "Wait a minute, I will get them." Izuku nodded as 𝗵𝗃𝗄 went down to receive the 𝗣𝗲𝗍𝗺. After a few minutes, 𝗵𝗃𝗄 came back up as she gave the set to Izuku and asked him to show what he had learned in his lesson with his teacher. Izuku nodded as he opened the set, opened an ink bottle and kept it near the paper he will use to demonstrate. Izuku then got the ink brush out and let out a small breath and closed his eyes as he asked in his mind, "Mr. Kurama, can you show me the basic one time on that paper, so I can practice?" Izuku in response received the image of the same paper that Kurama showed last night. Izuku memorizing the first 10 opened his eyes and dipped the brush tip in ink, rubbed it on edge of bottle to get rid of the extra ink and started doing the Izuku then again closed his eyes to memorize the next 10 and repeated the same till he wrote all 44 on 2 papers and then showed them to his mother. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 was really impressed. Calligraphy was a minor subject in middle schools. They only teach and make the students memorize the 44. If Izuku is being taught this at such an early stage, then maybe this is related to his quirk training. Izuku after noting the starting practicing them repeatedly. A week later, Izuku just woke up and cheered as he passed the exam from Mr. Kurama regarding the 44 basic. Today is also the day the Midoriya family will move to their new villa in Yaoyorozu's property. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 spent the whole week packing for this day and helping Izuku in minor mistakes on the being an ex-member of the calligraphy club in high schools. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 would like to say she is pretty good at it. The doorbell rang as 𝗵𝗃𝗄 went to receive it. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 was greeted by the Yaoyorozu family as she opened the door. She cheerfully invited them inside. Momo went to look for Izuku and found him eating breakfast. Momo went up to his set as she greeted, "Good morning, Izuku-san." Izuku gave a small unnoticeable smile in return as he answered, "Good morning, Momo-san. Did you have your breakfast yet?" Momo nodded her head fast as she beamed and answered, "My mama made my favorite today. It was pancakes with chocolate syrup." Izuku let out a small chuckle as he said, "Wow, I am also having the same breakfast, Momo-san." Momo beamed as she asked, "See, can I have a small bite, Izuku-san?" Akira, Momo's dad, was about to stop his daughter but was interrupted by his wife who put her hand on his shoulder and shook her head no. Izuku gave a smile as he picked out another fork from the table and cut a piece using the knife. Using the fork, Izuku picked up the pancake piece with extra bit of sauce and put it near Momo's mouth as he said, "Here, Momo-san, say ah." Momo gave a wide smile as she opened her mouth and ate the piece from the fork. Momo bounced on her feet as she smiled brightly and exclaimed, "So tasty, 𝗵𝗃𝗄-san's pancakes are so good." Izuku smiled in agreement. While the parents smiled at the scene, finally able to see their lonely kids being happy with a friend. Momo ended up having 2 more bites as insisted from Izuku and they both went outside to the playground till the movers finished placing the furniture and items inside the trucks. 𝗵𝗃𝗄 then gave a smile towards Athena as she said, "Thanks for coming with Momo-chan. seeing Izuku finally having a good friend brings me joy. Athena nodded as she said, it's the same for Momo, she has no friends too, this arrangement will definitely help them both and maybe help Izuku-chan recover from what happened. Akira nodded as he left his wife to chat with Inko and went to look around their apartment. Akira just entered Izuku's room and saw it was clean and there was many papers on the study table with the basic of Japanese calligraphy practiced over and over again. Akira could see that the dustbin was filled with papers too. After checking the papers, Akira thought interesting to be able to learn the basic in an almost perfect manner at such a young age in almost unheard of. Akira saw that they were toys representing heroes, a few car toys and a computer in the room. Akira was gonna leave until he found a diary hidden behind the keyboard in the slide section. Akira read the diary interested in it. After a few minutes Akira finished reading as he sighed, he could feel the confusion of the kid, why everyone turned on him suddenly. Akira sighed and hoped Momo will be able to help Izuku more than he thought. Akira came back to the living room in time to hear Inko say, I am choosing for Izuku to get home study from now on until he grows into his teens, so he will grow in a friendly environment too. Akira then announcing his presence said, well, why don't he attend the classes with Momo then? Athena's sister teaches Momo, we can pay her for Izuku as well, then they both can attend together. Athena also nodded excitedly with the idea, it will be good for her daughter to have company while learning. Inko thought for a bit and then agreed with Akira's suggestion. Hours later, the movers finished loading the items into the trucks. The parents have called the kids who got back a bit sweaty and exhausted as the mothers cleaned the sweat using a handkerchief. Both families got into the limo and Izuku looked at the inside in awe. After an half-an-hour drive, they arrived at the Yaoyorozu mansion. Inko and Izuku looked at it with awe while Momo, who was excited, quickly took hold of Izuku, not noticing him flinch, dragged him off to show him around her house. The parents laughed at Momo's bubbliness and followed the kids in. Athena then turned to Inko and said it will take a day for the maids to clean up the villa, so please spend today in our house. We can introduce my sister to Izuku too and see how their first session together goes. Inko was a bit reluctant at first, but after a bit of insistence from the pair, she agreed. The kids spent an hour in Momo's play area till they were called for lunch. After eating lunch, which was a bit awkward for Inko, not being used to being served, both families waited for Athena's sister so explained the situation to her. A few minutes later, an almost carbon copy to Athena appeared, just being a few cm short, as Athena greeted, Hi Elena. It's been a week, has the commotion due to your promotion died down? Elena sighed and nodded as she said, yeah it has, so who are the guests? One-san. Athena promptly explained the situation quietly without the kids hearing it, and Elena was fuming by the end of it, that BS school. I think my husband, who is a lawyer, can help with this case. Midoriya-san. Inko gratefully nodded and asked for the pay. At first Elena denied, but after being fiercely insisted by Inko, Elena relented and accepted the fees. Elena then goes towards Izuku to greet him. The scared expression and the clear face of distrust did hurt a bit. Elena managed to introduce herself to Izuku, who just nodded without saying anything. Inko said that he will be homeschooled along with Momo every day from Monday to Friday. Izuku agreed and they had their first study session. Their study session is for 3 hours every day. Both Izuku and Momo seems to enjoy their session. It was basic additions today as well as Japanese alphabets. Izuku and Momo seems to be competing a lot, as Elena was shocked that Izuku's old school didn't recognize such a genius. By 4 p.m. their study session ended and the kids went to do their homework and play again, while the adults with Elena waited for Elena's husband to arrive so that Inko can raise the complaint. After Alan arrived, Elena explained the details to her husband, who after thinking about said, this is a tricky case. Without evidence, we can't sue the school unless we can somehow create legal evidence. Akira, who was listening, said, why don't we hire someone with a transformation quirk, make him transform as a kid and enroll them there as a quirkless status. We plant a voice recorder and camera on them. We should be able to gather the evidence on their treatment towards the quirkless, which should be enough evidence. Alan exclaimed, that's a marvelous plan, brother. It will work if we get the permission from the head police, who luckily is a friend of mine and will surely agree with us. Inko was a little teary at the end as she bowed her head and said, Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing for my family." Athena hugged 𝗵𝗃 gently from the side as 𝗵𝗃 started crying and hugging back. After a while 𝗵𝗃 calmed down and filled the case details. Elena and Alan left as Athena pulled aside 𝗵𝗃 to get to know her more since they will be best of friends eventually. Akira left alone, just sweat dropped as his wife abandoned him. He sighed and went to check on the movers at the villa. "I am getting more and more into writing for some reason. Maybe it's because I love your comments. Please show support. I shall also try improve more and more on the story. With the pace this book is getting reads. It's not long before we hit 10K reads. So cheers." Third person POV. The Midoriya family spent the night in the mansion and finally checked the villa they were gonna move into. It was a 3-storied villa, with a hall, kitchen and 2 bedrooms in first floor. Lounge, play area and another bedroom in the second floor and a whole floor for gym on third. 𝗵𝗃 decided that she and Izuku will sleep in one room till she is sure that he doesn't have any recurring nightmares. The furniture was already fitted. Izuku went to him and his mom's room and saw there was a king-size bed for both of them. 𝗵𝗃 and Izuku already finished their breakfast and Izuku then went to the gym floor to see what is there. As soon as Izuku arrived, he saw a treadmill, huge trampoline, balance ball, skipping rope, a long length of jumping mats for him to practice his speedrunning tricks without hurting himself too much. Izuku also saw hand grips and dumbbells on the floor in various weights from 1 kilogram to 20 kgs. Kurama, looking through Izuku, exclaimed, "This equipment is perfect for your practice, my child. Now let's start with stretching like you saw in the video." Izuku nodded and started freely swinging his arms side to side, rotating hips, jumping on each legs to get rid of the stiff joints, and was finally ready. Izuku put on some runner shoes and got on the treadmill. Putting the speed at 8 kilometers per hour, Izuku started running. After 20 minutes, Izuku slowly started getting exhausted and paused the treadmill. And got off, breathing a bit heavily. Kurama then suddenly said in his head, "Oh kid, I forgot to tell you how to unlock your chakra. Let's do it now." Izuku nodded as he asked, "What should I do, sensei?" Kurama felt a bit of pride being called sensei and replied, "Sit in a meditative position and only concentrate on reaching to a warm energy in your. When you reach it, you will see various rings appear. Guide your chakra through them and you should be done." Due to the walls being soundproofed, there is no disturbance to Izuku, who told his mom that he will be at lunch at 2 p.m. Izuku then sat down cross-legged and slowly steadied his breathing and closed his eyes, searching deep into himself. Hours has passed and Izuku didn't even move for flinch. That amount of concentration he had was extraordinary. Kurama thought to himself, if Naruto had this kind of patience and concentration, he would have been a legend by 14 itself. This kid is a true hard worker. You made a good choice, my friend. Izuku was lost to the feeling of time, only devoting himself to reach for the slight warmth feeling that he seemed to be getting closer to. Izuku then saw a blue flame-like energy in front of him. In his conscious, Izuku slowly grabbed the flame, feeling it as a part of his own and looking around, seeing many circle patterns that his sensei told him about. Izuku slowly willed for the chakra to start flowing in a serene manner through the loops, one at a time. After 20 minutes, Izuku managed to pass his chakra through all of them, felt a burst of energy as he opened his eyes. Izuku can see transparent blue energy called chakra around him. Izuku went to a nearby mirror and saw how the chakra looked. It looked denser from the outside. Izuku then stopped the chakra from flowing out of his body, let out a breath of exhaustion. The process was really consuming and Izuku asked, "Did I do it right, sensei?" Kurama grinned madly. "This kid. He will achieve things no other ninja was able to." He replied, "You did really well, kid. Now have lunch and you will see the changes in your body after." Izuku nodded and saw that it was 1 p.m. and felt a lot of sweat on his body. Izuku went to have a shower. After the shower, Izuku came down and greeting his mom and sat on the table. The duo had their lunch and Izuku took his bag and ran to Momo's house for the study session. Izuku could feel he was lighter and run faster than ever. Izuku was able to run at 18 km/h, which is more than the speed of an average adult without physical enhancement quirks. Izuku reached his destination in 4 minutes and didn't feel even slightly winded. Greeting his teacher, He sat beside Momo listening intently. After 2 hours and 30 minutes, at 5 p.m., due to the lesson being completed early, Miss Elena left and Momo and Izuku went to the library to do their homework together. After an hour of spending time together doing homework, playing tag where Izuku had to slow himself for Momo to catch him at least a few times. Izuku then ran home giving a hug to his mother and looked at the time. Seeing it was still 7 p.m. Izuku looked at his mother and said, "Mom, I finally unlocked my internal energy this morning." Inko gave a wide smile as she said, "That is good, Izu. Now have a bath and get ready. Momo's family will be here for dinner." Izuku nodded and went for his bath. After a long bath where Izuku felt relaxed, he dressed up and came back to see his mom talking to Momo's parents while Momo, as she looked at him, gave him a bright smile and a wave. Izuku gave smile and waved back as he greeted Momo's parents, and they all went to have dinner. The 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗔 family fully complimented Inko's cooking while Athena was having stars in her eyes asking for the recipes. After an eventful dinner, it was time to sleep, and as soon as Izuku hit the bed he was pulled into his mindscape. Izuku looked at Kurama as he said, "Hello sensei, what are we doing today?" Kurama hummed as he said, "It's time I teach you to write words like fire, wind, water, lightning, earth in kanji. I will demonstrate you these 5, learn them to perfection as these are the bases for attack seals. I will also include storage, explosion. These 2 are most important." Izuku nodded as Kurama demonstrated the kanjis for each 5 elements and storage and explosion. Izuku copied them multiple times for next 2 hours and finally was able to see how each slide makes up the kanji. Kurama nodded as he said, "Yes, that is the most important part. There should be not even a single mistake while making seals. Remember, Izuku's sealing arts are the hardest to learn but are the most useful." Izuku nodded as he continued with the practice. Time skip 1 week later. This week Izuku solely concentrated on perfecting his writing them thousands of times. Waking up early, going for a 1-hour run, 30 minutes of practicing front rolls, back rolls, stretching and then breakfast, and 5 hours of practicing his calligraphy and then going for class. Izuku would return at 6 p.m. and again practice his kanjis till 8 before dinner, and in his mind, Izuku was finally able to demonstrate all 44 10 times in a row without a single error. Even the 7 kanjis were demonstrated perfectly. Izuku just finished running on the treadmill, found he was running at 16 km/h for an hour and he was mildly exhausted. Izuku also noted that he was able to lift the 7 kilograms dumbbell in one hand to do reps but put it off till he grows up. Seeing that Izuku has also just completed his parkour training, Kurama said, "Kid, it's time you start learning chakra controlling exercises. You have a large amount after all." It's true, Izuku already has Chunin level chakra. Izuku nodded as he asked, "What is the first exercise?" Kurama then answered, "Go out and pick a leek from a tree and attach it to your forehead only using chakra. I will give you the next exercise once you can hold the leaf for 1 hour." Izuku nodded as he ran out and plucked a leaf from the and sat under the tree as he put the leaf on his forehead and channeled chakra to the place. Immediately the leaf blew away as Kurama said, "That was too much chakra, kit." Izuku nodded as he got a plan and then plucked another keep and kept it on his palm. Izuku slowly added minuscule amount of chakra into it. Slowly he felt the leaf stick to his palm. Recognizing the amount of chakra, Izuku then held the leaf on his head and slowly added chakra till he felt the leaf stick. Izuku let go of the leaf and after sticking to his head for a minute, the leaf fell off. Kurama was shocked at the thought process of the kid. Izuku, without knowing, follows the way called work hard while also working smart, meaning working hard in a smart way. Kurama can compare Izuku to the 𝗧𝗵𝗄 Hokage from the stories he heard. Izuku kept at it for the whole day whenever he had free time and at the end was able to stick it for 10 minutes. Izuku understood that control exercises are not only to control the amount to be used but also to maintain the same stream for a long period of time. Time skipped 1 month. In this 1 month, Izuku got much closer to the 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗔 family and they even went out for some amusement parks and restaurants together. Izuku could be seen have a small smile on his face whenever he was with Momo. Izuku considers Momo someone he can really place his trust in, and Momo doesn't leave Izuku's side whenever she see him. Izuku was able to master the leaf exercise in a week but made it HRD on himself, but doing the same exercise but with multiple leaves on different parts of his body like legs, knees, arms. Izuku still did it for 2 hours too, instead of 1. Kurama praised Izuku for it too. Kurama also taught more kanjis for Izuku and thought he can start working with real seals with the level of perfection of his calligraphy, but held the idea for a year later. Izuku also slowly stopped trying to distance away from Elena and is now talking with her normally too. Inko and Athena became best of friends quite quickly. They even have sleepovers with kids whenever Akira is on a 1 or 2-day business trip. Izuku perfected his forward rolls and backward rolls and also the cartwheel. Izuku now training for his flexibility. Momo also started running as she wanted to do the same as Izuku, as she said to her parents, who agreed and installed a treadmill in her play area and the same long jumping mat that Izuku has. Third-person POV. Izuku was progressing fast and Kurama has his plans for today. Izuku just finished his morning run and was about to move on to his parkour training when Kurama suddenly said, "Wait kid, it's time for you to learn the second chakra control exercise. I think you can get this one done relatively quickly." Izuku stopped walking as he thought, "Alright sensei, what is it?" Kurama answered, "It's called the tree climbing exercise, but instead of climbing it with your hands and legs, you must push enough chakra to the bottom of your feet or shoes to stick to the tree. The advanced form of this one is to jump from trees randomly on their sides." Izuku nodded understanding. Izuku took permission from his mom to go to the group of trees behind the house. Izuku, as soon as he arrived there, thought that using the same method as he used with the leaf exercise, as it is best like his sensei says. Izuku lifted one leg, put it on the tree, slowly transferred chakra into it until he felt it firmly stay and lifted himself on the leg. Now standing horizontally on one leg, Izuku put the other leg and slowly channeled chakra to the bottom of the feet. Izuku then removed the chakra from the first leg and put it even higher and channeled chakra into it, faster than the before step. After getting to the top, Izuku would slid down and start again. Izuku after a couple hours found himself able to walk at normal pace, up and down the tree. Izuku then went to get breakfast. Inko, who saw Izuku, asked Izuku, "Go take a shower and come to eat." Izuku shook his head as he said, "Mom, I will be training for a bit more, I just came to get breakfast." Inko thought a bit and said, "I will allow it as long as it doesn't involve sprinting, okay?" Izuku nodded his head and sat on the table and had toast with omelette. After finishing his breakfast, Izuku went back to the tree and started again. After 2 more hours. It is 10 a.m. and we can see Izuku being able to run up and down the tree at slow speed, as Kurama said, "Well done, you will continue running up and down the trees instead of your running on treadmill for the next 1 week for 3 hours, okay?" Izuku, who is confused, asked, "Why?" Kurama said, "So you can increase the amount of chakra inside you." Izuku nodded as he looked at the time and saw he still has more than an hour of free time. Kurama said, "Come to your mindscape, I shall teach you something new." Izuku nodded as he sat under the tree and closed his eyes as he was pulled into the mindscape. Izuku bowed in greeting to Kurama-sensei and looked at Kurama, ready to begin. Kurama then created a few shuriken and kunai and said these are called shuriken and kunai. Shuriken are used to throw at their opponents. It can't kill unless it has wind chakra added to it, so it's a safe throwing weapon for you. These knife-shaped ones are kunai. You can either use them for throwing or close-quarter fighting. I will teach you to throw them today, okay? Izuku nodded as he also created some shuriken and kunai, after a few tries of getting the size wrong. Kurama with his human-like hands showed Izuku how to hold the shuriken and throw it. Izuku managed to hold one properly and throw it but needs to work on accuracy. Kurama then showed how a kunai is thrown and how one finger has to be behind the circle on top of the kunai handle to the throw will go straight instead of spinning. Izuku after 30 minutes managed to throw a kunai straight as Kurama said, you need to acquire them somehow, do think of it. Izuku already has an idea on how to get them. Izuku heard that Momo's dad has quirk related to IQ, which means Momo must have gotten her quirk from her mother. Izuku woke up out of his mindscape as looked to see, he still has 30 minutes before he has to go home. Izuku ran towards the Yaoyorozu's estate at his top speed. Arriving in 2 minutes. Izuku went towards a maid and asked, "Excuse me, maid-san. Do you know where Momo-chan's mom is?" The maid smiled and led Izuku to Athena's room. Izuku knocked the door, and after hearing a come in from inside, Izuku entered and saw Athena on her bed reading a book. Izuku then said, "Hi, auntie." Athena was surprised to see Izuku visit her all of a sudden but welcomed it as she asked, "Izu-chan, do you need any help?" Izuku went inside and sat on the bed and said, "Auntie, your quirk is same as Momo's, right?" Athena chuckled and said, "It's similar, but I can only make things with metals." Izuku then asked, "Auntie, can you make me some shuriken and kunais?" Athena was shocked for a second as she said, "But why do you need such sharp things, Izuku?" Izuku hesitated but decided to explain about his quirk and how he is receiving training from his quirk. Athena nodded as she said, "I see, no wonder you picked up calligraphy so easily. Very well, Izuku, I will make these, but if you get any big injuries, I will never making them again and taking them away." Izuku nodded as he explained the design of shuriken and kunai. After a few tries, Athena was able to make it perfectly. She made 3 sets of shuriken. 12 in each set and 1 set of kunai, 12 kunais. Athena placed them in a bag and gave them to Izuku. Izuku hesitated but gave her a hug as he whispered thanks. And took the bag and ran out embarrassed. Athena stood there stunned for a minute as she started laughing with small tears as she thought, "Looks like he is growing out of his fears more faster than we thought, Inko-chan." Izuku, after running back to the clearing, copied the same pose he did in his mindscape and threw the shuriken and kunai at a tree he marked. Izuku hit a few and missed a few. Izuku heard a bell and knew his training time is over as he collected all the scattered shuriken and kunai and put them in the bag and made his way home. Izuku entered and kept the bag in the gym room and went to shower as he was a bit sweaty. After a bath, Izuku went down to have lunch. After lunch, Izuku took his bag with books and went to his daily study session with Momo and Miss Elena. The whole 3 hours, Elena taught them about subtraction, which Izuku already knew since he spent all his time during his school with books itself. After completing homework with Momo and playing for a while, Izuku arrived back at 6:30 p.m. and went to practice his calligraphy. Izuku, after what Kurama has taught him, spent the rest of his calligraphy practice in writing the kanjis faster while keeping the same precision. Time skip 1 month. Izuku in this 1 month learnt to throw kunai and shuriken precisely at even moving target. Izuku managed to learn how to apply chakra to parts of his bodies like fists and legs to enhance his speed or attack power. Izuku also is now able to run at 20 km/h, which is good even amongst adults. Izuku advanced the most in parkour training, being small and able to jump almost 1.5 to 2 meters into air without any chakra enhancement. Izuku is now able to form flips in mid-air. Izuku is now combining his speed and parkour to constantly do them on instinct. Izuku and Momo still contest on their academics and usually comes to a draw with both of them scoring 100. Izuku has also completed the advanced part of tree climbing, jumping horizontally from one tree to another at high speeds. A major event that happened was that all of older group of schools were shut down by the government due to evidence of bullying and unfair treatment of students, and some teachers even wanted lowering the grades of a few students too. Lawyer Allen fought the case with the school's defense lawyer, and with the evidence and Izuku's and Inko's statements, the school was closed down. Athena, after seeing Izuku practice his shuriken and kunai, started recommending it to Momo. Kira was first against it, but one creation of a metal bat convinced him easily. Izuku spent 2 days as he demonstrated to Momo on how to hold and throw them, as Momo also practiced on her own. Present day, 5 a.m. Date, July 15th. Izuku heard the alarm and slowly woke as he heard, "Happy birthday, Izuku." Izuku jumped at the surprise and attached himself on the ceiling. Everyone stared dumbfounded at Izuku as Izuku realized what happened and calmed himself down and let go of the ceiling and landed on the ground as he said, "Thanks everyone," with a nice smile. Everyone wanted to ask the ceiling incident, but once Izuku smiled, they forgot it, and Momo took hold of his hands and pulled him into the hall as they sang the birthday song as Izuku cut the cake. Elena and Alan gave Izuku a new calligraphy set with extra ink sticks and an ink stone since Izuku's old brush was slowly starting to dry up at the hairs. Momo gave Izuku a small steel necklace she made with a picture of her and Izuku playing tag. Athena gave Izuku more sets of kunai and shuriken and also a whetstone and a book on how to maintain your weapons. Inko questioned the gift and after learning of Izuku's request the previous month, Inko scolded Izuku for doing something dangerous without informing her. Izuku apologized, giving his mom a teary-eyed look and a hug as Inko easily melted. Akira gave Izuku a face mask which he can use to hide features from nose to his neck. Same mask BW. Akira also told Izuku that the mask is elastic, made to grow along with the face. Izuku thanked his uncle as he wore the mask, liking the feeling. Izuku decided to keep it on for now. Inko gave Izuku a guitar as she said, "Well, it's good to learn some instruments so you can relax yourself playing them." Izuku thanked his mom, giving her a peck on her cheek, and they all went outside as they clapped seeing Izuku's skill with throwing shuriken and kunai. Momo has also shown decent progress in the art of throwing too. Akira then asked Izuku about how he was able to stand on the ceiling as Izuku replied, "Well, Kurama-sensei told me methods to learn to control my internal energy. I can apply energy to the bottom of the feet enough to stick to the tree or any surface." Izuku demonstrated by walking up a tree with only his feet as he also jumped and landed on another tree. The adults were in shock and awe on the usefulness of the skill too. Momo wanted to try too and ran to the tree but was stopped by her protective father as Momo made a pout, seemingly angry at her father. Then after everyone showing their own talents, the party group went back in the home to treat themselves to Inko's delicious home cooking. Third-person POV. It's been 3 years since Izuku's 6th birthday. Izuku grew to be 130 centimeters or 4 feet 3 inches. Kurama has taught Izuku water walking and sunban balancing. Izuku has also learned the method on infusing chakra to increase one's speed and one's strength. Even without any enhancement, Izuku himself can run at 35 miles per hour. Izuku trained himself on how to punch and kick from Kurama, who showed Izuku memories of Naruto learning Minato's hummingbird style. Izuku was the best suited for the style, which aims to be able to dance around your opponent's moves with speed and precision and hit at pressure points and joints using chakra-enhanced attack. Hummingbird style was something Izuku has spent 2 years on. Another major achievement is Izuku's fuinjutsu skills. All the time Izuku spent on his use of calligraphy paid off as he was instantly able to learn the seals no matter how complex. Izuku has learned the different kinds of storage seals, explosion seals which Izuku attaches on his shurikens. Izuku learned some complex seals like resistance seals and how to apply weight seals to metals, and also learned stasis seal where living things can be stored in a time freeze. The downside is that for a human or animal to be stored in it, the human has to either be unconscious or dead. Izuku's latest learning is the 5-element seal. Izuku found one thing: he can seal of any quirk which is related to elements and sub-elements except for enhancement quirks, mutation quirks, and quirks related to mind. Izuku on that day found out how terrifying fuinjutsu is. Now Izuku is learning to from seals with chakra itself, not with ink or paper. Kurama explained that being able to make seals with only solid chakra is the best and fastest way to make seals on the spot, and the seals can be strengthened with more chakra. Izuku has improved in shurikenjutsu field, now being at jonin level. Izuku has also learned how to make chakra strings from chakra and attack them to shurikens or kunais, bringing shurikenjutsu up a level. Izuku is now very fluent in parkour, managing to cram them in his instinct. Izuku found he can use parkour to build up momentum for some attacks too. The social life of Izuku remained the same over the 3 years. One thing is the Izuku wore his mask all the time. Even while eating, it a small genjutsu Izuku learned and applies on the surroundings when eating. Coming to ninjutsus, Izuku learned the 3 basic ones being substitution technique, a body clone technique which only created a visual clone with no characteristics. Now we have Izuku's present favorite, the body flicker technique, where you apply appropriate amount of chakra to travel to a place in mind in a straight line. Izuku when first learned the jutsu thought, can I upgrade this to use in battle? Izuku found that the lowest possible amount of chakra in body flicker can make him go 5m. Izuku hit a of trees and had different injuries as his first speed-related technique he named Flash Step. Since all Izuku needs is one step and he disappears. The only disadvantage is that in mid-movement you can move your body to be in appropriate attack state in middle of a body flicker, but Izuku can manage to flicker to appropriate blind spots in order to attack, which he demonstrated against Kurama in a training match. Izuku with age developed an innate skill of sensing people. Izuku when closing eyes can see the outline of people due to the small amount of chakra they have to live. Izuku trained upon this skill with the help of Kurama and is now able to feel the location of someone he wants wherever in the range of 20 meters. Momo has also grown alongside Izuku, still being the same height as him, as Momo still has the same personality that Izuku is thankful for, but in the face of a stranger, Momo's face becomes neutral and her tone becoming like a young lady speak. Momo has also learned Shuriken Jutsu to a high degree. Momo seeing Izuku make chakra strings to attack to his kunai or shuriken before throwing to guide them midair also has managed to make a thin, strong thread out of her fingertips to attach to the shuriken or kunai and control them. Momo has to do some strength training in order to be able to move the shuriken midair with string by just using her fingers. Momo's parents praised her at the creative mind and Izuku praised her too. Momo has learned how to use weapons over time. Momo would practice against Izuku, who will use completely blunt kunais. The parents themselves got close to each other, with Athena spending a lot of time at Inko's house along with Momo when Akira is at work most of the day. They also had countless sleepovers too. Izuku and Momo grew up close to each other. Izuku told Momo about his quirk and about himself before Momo came into his life. It was an emotional night where Momo didn't dare leave Izuku alone. We have Akira who has been in a mission past 2 years. Izuku has not revealed his face at all in 2.5 years, and everyone is trying to get even a glimpse of it. One day after his plans died out, Akira tried to catch Izuku, who would just use Flash Step to appear a bit away from Akira. It was funny for the girls seeing a grown man struggle to even catch Izuku. Now, at present time, it's been 3 years and 3 months since Izuku has started training. Kurama held off the most important part, which is strength and speed training through resistance seals, which Kurama waited till Izuku was at least 9, since by them, the body would have its first growth spurt. Kurama remembered during his time in Kushina when Minato in his late teens one day came to her and told her to apply the resistance seals on his body. Kurama then looked at Izuku's hands, which have a storage seal in his right hand storing kunais and another storage seal in his left hand containing shuriken. Kurama had to admit, not carrying anything on person increases his efficiency during battle. Izuku just has to pulse a little bit of chakra and desired number or kunai or shuriken would appear in his hand. Izuku, who just went through his birthday, is now in his mindscape, looking at Kurama. Kurama then said, "Today, I will teach you a jutsu called Shadow Clone Jutsu. You can create actual physical clones with this jutsu. They will have the same strength as speed as your but are dispelled in one good hit. The one crazy thing about Shadow Clone is that it passes memories and experience back to original when it is dismissed. Meaning you can use it to train your ninjutsu, chakra control and taijutsu stances faster." Izuku was in awe at the description of the jutsu and asked, "Wait, can you practice Fuinjutsu too?" Kurama nodded his head as he shows the appropriate hand seals to Izuku. Izuku, after repeating the hand seals, produced 50 clones. Kurama then warned Izuku not to dispel them all at once. Izuku nodded as he slowly dismissed them in the group of 10. Due to the shadow clones doing nothing, Izuku didn't get any headache. Kurama then said, "Use the shadow clone to apply resistance seals at level 1 on your backs." Izuku nodded as he went back to his body and closed his eyes, effectively sleeping but with his sensing abilities on full swing. Time skip, next day morning. 5 a.m. Izuku woke up as he brushed his teeth and did a face wash and picked up his calligraphy set, went to his training area. Izuku did some hand seals and a shadow clone came into existence. Izuku said, "Draw a level 1 resistance on my back." The clone nodded as it took a minute for it to skillfully complete the pattern. Izuku applied chakra, activating it as Izuku tried walking forwards. Found himself put double as much effort. Izuku said, "How long till I get used to this, sensei?" Kurama then explained, Minato took at least 2 months to train back to his normal speed at resistance level 1. but with me inside you and constantly repairing and upgrading the straining muscle, I recon a 1.5 month. There are only 5 levels to this. Meaning 5 times what have now is the limit of the resistance seals. Izuku nodded at the explanation as he walked back home. Izuku already is feeling the strain as his mother asked, "Izu-chan, why do you seem so exhausted?" Izuku explained the new training to his mother, who nodded at it and said, "As long as you don't stop growing in height, I will approve." Izuku explained the details about the seals as 𝗵𝗃 approved, and Izuku had some juice and went right back to training. Izuku felt like he was training for the first time again in his life with the exhaustion he is feeling right now. Izuku can definitely feel it. I will have to go through those horrible muscle cramps again. Time skip the next day. Yep, Izuku was right. Izuku is now going through the training once again, but with the cramps making it more hard. Izuku then thought, "Sensei, you said to remember the location of the cave, but we haven't gone there till now. What do we do about it?" Kurama's voice was heard as he said, "Since you mentioned Kit, we will go there today and bring some storage scrolls to store everything." Izuku nodded as he went home to get breakfast. Izuku packed some storage scrolls in a storage scroll as he turned off his resistance seal to be done with the task quickly. Izuku then put up one seal and disappeared from his place, appearing once every 400 to 500 meters. In 5 minutes, Izuku made it to the hideout. Izuku went inside as Kurama said, "Put the weapons on one scroll, the dad's jutsu side in one scroll and the mom's techniques side in one scroll, then you can put the self-created techniques in a scroll at last." Izuku nodded as he went to the neatly arranged scrolls which have dust on them and stored them in each different scrolls while naming the scrolls according to its contents. Izuku finished up in half an hour and then looked around the hideout and saw a huge claymore sword to the side. Kurama, who saw Izuku noticing the sword, said, "The sword used to belong to a strong person who taught Naruto an important lesson, the ways of a ninja. Take the sword, you can blunt it with the whetstone and be able to use it against opponents. Naruto also did store the Kenjutsu scroll for that claymore. Its name is Kubikura-Bocho, or the Executioner's Blade." Izuku tried lifting it, but it took his full effort and his both hands to do so. Izuku then drew another storage seal on the palm of his hand as he stored the weapon inside. Izuku then left the cave and flickered home as he entered his house and went to his room. His mother finally allowed him to move out of their joint room to a new one, even though a lot of crying from 𝗵𝗃 and demands of hugs and kisses were made. Izuku kept the scrolls in his bookshelf and then let out a breath as he reactivated his resistance seal. Izuku then went to the training ground again as he thought, "It's time to train third-person POV." More years went by. Izuku could honestly say that the previous 5 years was the best time of his life. He has a sensei teaching him kindly and pushing him to his limits. His mom has always been the best. He gained more people he can call family, like the Yajiro's family and Elena Sensei's family. Elena Sensei gave BRH to a baby girl 2 years ago. She would bring her to their classes and Momo and Izuku would finish their classes faster and play with Maika-chan. 𝗵𝗃, Athena and Elena laughed at first when Izuku was torn between being his way or playing with the child, but Maika-chan liked Izuku a lot as she always clung to him the most when she saw him. Momo was always jealous of the fact Maika-chan liked Izuku more than her, and was very expressive about it, showing the biggest pout on her face. Momo and Izuku have grown to be much more closer after that sleepover where Izuku explained his past before meeting her. Akira was still on his mission of unmasking Izuku's face, which even 𝗵𝗃 hasn't seen. Kurama laughed as he remembered the struggles Naruto's old team went through to try to unmask Kakashi. Another biggest changes in Izuku are that his hair has started becoming orange in the edges. Kurama was shocked as Izuku's genes as a Uzumaki started coming out. At first Kurama thought it was due to Izuku's family being a descendant, but then remembered that Naruto stored his chakra in Izuku, which must have gotten Izuku the Uzumaki genes. Izuku progress in Fuinjutsu skyrocketed. Izuku can create any seal he wants with molding chakra into a seal shape and engraving it to a body or paper. Izuku never touched any of the scrolls Naruto left behind except the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu and a few wind style and lightning style techniques. Izuku tested his chakra using a chakra paper left behind by Naruto and found himself to have wind and lightning attributes. Kurama then explained elemental chakra control exercises to Izuku. Izuku, with the help of shadow clones, managed to ace the exercises, which involved wind-style elemental chakra control exercises. Cutting the leaf in half only using wind chakra. Cutting a wooden plank in half using wind chakra. Cutting a normal-sized rock in half with wind chakra. Cutting a boulder-sized rock with wind chakra. Using wind chakra to push forward a car. Created by Izuku. Lightning-style elemental chakra control exercises. Wrinkling a leaf only using lightning chakra. Lighting a bulb and keeping it running for 1 hour only using lightning chakra. Using D-rank jutsus constantly to develop resistance to the damage received in return. 𝗵𝗃 let out a tsunami for this one. Constantly charging huge batteries for hours. Created by Izuku. It took 2 years, even with the help of shadow clones, to perfect the elemental chakra control exercises. Izuku, after the exercises, quickly the jutsus of these elementals. Izuku learned the non-lethal ones mainly, which can be controlled to not kill. Izuku has increased his resistance seal to max and managed to achieve regular speed in the max state. Izuku also the advanced forms of the hummingbird style. Izuku's main achievement was in the Kenjutsu field. Izuku took the 𝗂𝗵𝗃𝗁 to Athena. Athena, after studying the metal, was able to make a match with a fusion of few other metals as she broke down the 𝗂𝗵𝗃𝗁 and made a new one with same shape but blunted the sharp cutting side to almost round so Izuku can cause huge damage, but not killing blows. Izuku is finally able to wield the sword in one hand and lent one-handed hand signs from a scroll. Izuku practiced with Kurama to be able to use Kenjutsu and ninjutsu together in battles by using one-handed signs. If there was one thing that Momo was mad about, is that Izuku has finally overtaken her in height. Momo at the age of 12 stands at 5 feet 1 inch, whereas Izuku is at 5 foot 3 inches. Izuku teases her about it, causes Momo to get mad and chase him around the place, throwing kunai and shuriken till she runs out of lipids. Izuku wanted to engrave storage seal in Momo's hand, but due to her unable to use chakra, she won't be able to use it. Momo has also become a strong young lady on her own. Her shurikenjutsu reached elite jonin levels as she practiced in using bow staff and knuckle braces as main weapons. Momo has also managed to make flamethrowers, high-pressure water cannons, while using here lipids as fuel. Izuku chuckled, remembering how Momo fell on her back due to not being able to withstand the force of her water cannon. It has been 1 week since Izuku's mom gave him a shocking announcement. 1 week ago. 𝗵𝗃 with a serious expression came to Izuku as she said, "Izuku, Katsuki has been finally removed from rehabilitation to attend middle school. The government said he did excellent in his rehabilitation, but they would like you to attend the same school as him. If he does anything now, it's straight to jail." 𝗵𝗃 expected Izuku to be scared or outright deny, but Izuku just hummed in thought and said, "Sure, why not? I do have to join some middle school anyways." "Which school is it?" 𝗵𝗃 was shocked at the moment by Izuku dismissing it, but smiled as she said, "𝗬𝗵𝗲 Junior High School." Izuku hummed as he said, "Sure, that school does have a good name." 𝗵𝗃 smiled as she said, "You first day is in 1 week. Back to present." Izuku got ready to attend the orientation for the batch joining them this year. Izuku wore the uniform and packed his textbooks and sealed the backpack in his right hand. Momo stood in the room watching Izuku pack his stuff for school as she asked, "Izuku-in, do you really have to go to middle school?" Izuku could understand Momo's worries. She is still to be homeschooled till high school as she wants to join Yuki. Momo always had Izuku with her, so she is feeling sad that their time together is limited now. Izuku pat her head as he said, "Don't worry, the classes are only till 3 p.m. I can get home quickly in 5 minutes and we can spend time together, okay?" Momo gave a small smile as she nodded, and Izuku walked out of the villa, which Momo and 𝗵𝗃 waving him bye. Izuku used a hand sign and flickered away from sight. Momo sighed. No matter how many times she sees it, she still can't believe how fast Izuku is. She had never been able to beat him in a straight fight. She is proud of one thing, that she had him beat in academics. In a span of 5 minutes, Izuku covered 80 kilometers as he arrived in front of his middle school. Izuku had to admit, it was very big. Izuku entered as he asked around some students he thought were seniors for directions. They happily told him as Izuku bowed and walked towards the auditorium where orientation is conducted. With 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was glad he was released from rehabilitation. It was a nice place, but he missed outside life. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was gonna ask where he is gonna attend middle school and found he was going to 𝗳𝗵𝗲 Junior High. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 still has quirk-canceling bracelets in each of him arm. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 felt calm though. His quirk makes him be in a state of anger on which he acted when he was young. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 sighed as he remembered his actions. He was told that 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗲 will also be attending the same school so they can see his behavior if it has worked or not. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 agreed to it and just came home yesterday. His parents did visit him a lot during rehabilitation, but he missed the physical contact. His welcome yesterday was very warm. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 asked if they have seen Izuku after. His parents became gloomy as Masaru said, "𝗵𝗃𝗲 cut off everything with us. We don't even know where their house is now. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 sold of her apartment too." 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was shocked. 𝗵𝘃𝗲, now looking around, went to the auditorium and sat in his place as the principal and the student council president gave their speeches. With Izuku sat at the back row after the orientation was over. Izuku looked at the list of classes. His class was 1. Izuku also saw 𝗵𝘃𝗲's name there and thought, "Interesting, he is also in the same class as me. I hope you change 𝗵𝘃𝗲. If not, I am not the same as back then." And walked to his class. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 after a while finally found his name in class 1A. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 saw Izuku's name. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 felt a lot of emotions inside him. He wondered how Izuku would do if he sees him. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 remembered his mom telling him that Izuku himself got a quirk too. He is a late bloomer, it seems. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 hoped that his past will not define him here. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 then walked towards the direction of his class. Izuku arrived in class and looked to see he was first. Izuku then sat in the first row window seat. After a minute later, the door opened and Izuku looked at who arrived. Izuku's eyes turned emotionless as he gazed at 𝗵𝘃𝗲. The boy has grown up. Izuku could tell 𝗵𝘃𝗲 didn't have any muscles. He looked a bit thin too. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 also gazed at Izuku. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 first saw a child Izuku in front of him but shook his head to let the image go. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 then got a clear look at Izuku. Izuku had a mask covering the lower half of his face. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 could see that Izuku has been training. His shoulders were broad and through the half sleeve, 𝗵𝘃𝗲 could see clear biceps too. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 just walked till he reached Izuku and sat in the seat behind him. Izuku was first to break the silence as he said, "How is Auntie Mitsuki?" 𝗵𝘃𝗲 couldn't feel anything in the voice. It was just blank. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 gulped as he answered back, "She is doing fine, Midoriya-san. She misses 𝗵𝘃𝗲-san a lot." Izuku expected it. He will go home and convince his mom to call Aunt Mitsuki at least. Izuku then turned around in his seat as he faced 𝗵𝘃𝗲 and asked, "How was rehabilitation?" 𝗵𝘃𝗲 gave a small smile as he said, "It was a nice place. The caretakers finally helped me think properly about myself." Izuku looked at 𝗵𝘃𝗲 as he extended his hand and said, "Hope to have a good year then, classmate." 𝗵𝘃𝗲 stared at the hand in shock. He felt many things inside. He felt undeserving of it. But his hand moved forward as he shook Izuku's hand as his mouth said, "I hope the same, classmate, I hope the same." 𝗵𝘃𝗲 finally felt that maybe he can move forward. Izuku turned around as he looked at his hand and thought, "It's finally my first step to move forward from my past with him." Students filled in, people started making small talks to people beside them. Beside Izuku, the boy with abnormal colored skin looked nervous as he thought, "The guy's eyes give nothing, I think he wants to be left alone." That's right, Izuku didn't plan on trusting anyone easily. He held his eyes emotionless and his aura to be completely empty. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 from behind could feel Izuku as he thought, "I guess he wants to be left alone, huh?" The teacher came in and introduced herself as the homeroom teacher as the students greeted their teacher and the Izuku's middle school life begins. "We finally hit 500 followers. Let's go." Third person POV. Time skip 2 years 6 months. Izuku age 16. The last bell of the school day rang. The students cheered since it's a 2-day weekend. A lot has happened these 2.5 years. Izuku and 𝗵𝘃𝗲 were the top 2 in academics. Izuku dominated the physical category as well, while 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was in the upper middle of the class in terms of physicals since he just started training his body 2 years ago. Izuku was the most mysterious person in the whole school. His looks were hidden, there was not much info about his quirk given by Izuku. Izuku almost doesn't speak to anyone unless the teachers ask him a question. Bakugo was quite popular due to his strong quirk and cool personality. Bakugo didn't let it get to his head though. Bakugo always stayed as humble as he can ever since rehabilitation was over. Inko called Mitsuki as they both cried over the phone while talking to each other. Inko and Mitsuki have meetups twice or thrice a month to go to mall or just walk around. Inko was still not ready to see Katsuki. Momo was really lonely without Izuku when he goes to school, but Momo started training more in her free time to get stronger. Izuku would hang out as much as he can with Momo on the last 3 to 4 days of the week. Momo's stamina training given by Kurama and Izuku paid off rewardingly. Izuku making seals with only chakra. Izuku, after working hard for 1 year, finally cracked the Flying God Thunder Jutsu. Izuku made his own formula. Izuku is able to use it but not perfectly, and it takes a large amount of chakra. Izuku then held a further training till after the junior high ends and they get the 3-month vacation. Izuku finally was able to produce chains from chakra after making the seals from chakra. Izuku is presently able to control 4 chains perfectly from his back. Izuku also studied a scroll which says that upon reaching 10 chains, it is possible to form a barrier which is strong enough to stop Kurama's attack. Izuku took his flash step to another level by using lightning chakra to increase the speed of the technique. It was painful at beginning, but after a 1 month of training along with shadow clones, it paid off. Izuku named it Lightning Step Dash. It's not much chakra consuming and is best for short-range fights. Izuku also perfected using the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 and adding wind attribute to it in order to cut through obstacles. In other cases, the sword, which was a blunt to almost circle edge, is used to provide blows which deal damage to bones, muscles, and internal parts. Kurama stated Izuku to be at elite Jonin to Quasi-Kage range in terms of overall battle power. Izuku also learnt how to play guitar in the free time to honor his mother's request. We now see Izuku exiting out of the school as he thinks, I will go to the mountain hideout to practice the waterfall walking. It is the hardest chakra control exercise. Izuku, after exiting the school gates, sprinted home at impressive speed. After 20 minutes, Izuku arrived at the main gate of both his family and Yaoyorozu family's houses. Izuku flashed his card at the screen beside the gate as it opened up, and Izuku jogged inside. Izuku also had quite a generous growth, with him now being 5 feet 10 inches, which is the 2 inches taller than Momo, who is at 5 feet 8 inches. Izuku is one of the tallest boys in school whose quirk is not related to body growth. Momo, who was waiting at the door, came running towards Izuku as she stopped in front of him and said, "Welcome back, Izuku-kun." Izuku smiled, not that anyone can see with the mask, and said, "I am back, Momo. What are you doing today?" Momo gave a small dejected expression as she said, "I wanted to go to the mall with you today, but I can't since Elena-sensei is keeping me in for special classes." Izuku chuckled, making Momo puff her cheeks as she yelled, "What are you laughing at?" Izuku stopped chuckling as he said, Fine. How about we go to the Southern Hale Mall, which even has a bowling alley on Saturday?" Momo beamed as she cheerfully said, "K. Now I have to go back for classes. Bye, Izuku-kun." Izuku waved his hand goodbye as Momo jogged back to her house. Izuku then applied chakra to his feet and disappeared using flash step. Izuku appeared in front of his home and rang the bell. Inko, after a few seconds, opened the door and welcomed Izuku with a wide smile. Izuku then told his mom he will be going outside for a while and went to his room to change into his training clothes. Izuku used body flicker as he appeared outside the gate and started jogging to his location. Izuku was nearing the city borders to enter into the forest as he heard a big thud. Izuku sprinted across the trees as he arrived at the spot. He saw the dragon form of one of the popular upcoming heroine named Ryukyu. Yes, Izuku is still as big of a fan of heroes as ever. Izuku loves watching new people take the stage. Izuku liked the debut of Ryukyu 2 months ago, where she protected 5 students from a villain throwing a truck at them. Izuku saw that Ryukyu was very injured and wobbly as she placed on the villain and promptly fainted next to the already unconscious villain. Izuku sighed as he took out some spare paper from his right-hand storage seal. Izuku took a second as he formed the stasis seal using chakra and implanted it on the paper. Izuku then placed the paper on the villain with the seal side facing the villain and let some chakra into the paper. The villain disappeared into the seal where no time passes, preventing the body from being in any kind of danger. Izuku then held Ryukyu gently in his arms and used body flicker as he disappeared from the place. Izuku flickered to the waterfall location. Izuku entered through the wall hidden by Genjutsu. After placed Ryukyu on the stone bed, Izuku then concentrated hard as he placed his hands above the worse injuries on Ryukyu. Green chakra started appearing on Izuku's hands as the same color chakra appeared on the injury, healing it at a visible rate. Izuku spent the next 2 hours doing the same as he applied some medical ointment on the light wounds and bruises. The ointment was a formula from Naruto-san's wife, as Kurama-sensei said. Izuku, being a bit exhausted as medical jutsus, took a lot of mental exhaustion on him because he is still training in that particular field currently. Izuku just wants to learn the mystical palm jutsu and the chakra scalpel, which is another advanced form on chakra control training. Izuku, after a bit of rest, went outside to work on the waterfall walk. After an hour of practice and comically falling down the waterfall along with 100 clones. In the cave, the blonde heroine just woke up. She looked around as she thought, "What happened? I was just fighting that guy with the gorilla quirk. I did defeat and handcuff him. Wait. Don't tell me I got kidnapped by a villain group." Ryukyu remembered receiving some heavy injuries as she looked at her arms and legs. "Wait. There are no visible injuries on me, and the small ones have some kind of ointment applied on it. If anyone helped me, I have to thank him or her and go, 'cause that villain might be rescued if he has any friends." Ryukyu got up, noticed that she still feels quite weak. Ryukyu slowly followed where the light came from and walked outside. First thing she noticed was it was bright, extremely so. After a few seconds of adjusting to the light, Ryukyu heard a voice speak, "Are your injuries okay?" Ryukyu jumped a bit, not hearing a footsteps approach her, and she turned around and saw some dangling upside down the tree. Ryukyu let out a yelp as she jumped back a bit and saw that the stranger's legs were literally attached to the tree. Ryukyu then remembered the question he asked and said, "Yes, I am all right. Can I please know how long I was unconscious for?" Izuku looked at her for a few seconds and jumped off the tree, landing perfectly as he said, 3 hours. Ryukyu then said, "Were you the one who treated my injuries in the sea dash?" Ryukyu stood still shocked. She was about to point at the cave where she came from, but she sees no caves. Izuku then said, "Don't worry, you are not hallucinating. There is an illusion covering the entrance so it can't be seen." Ryukyu nodded as she asked, "Wait, if you have a illusion quirk, how did you heal me?" Izuku just tilted his head to the side as he said, "I don't have a illusion quirk. My quirk is internal energy. There is a special energy in my body which I can convert to elements and other things." Ryukyu looked in awe as she said, "WH, that must be such an excellent quirk." Izuku then chuckled as he said, "Might be, but yours is also quite an excellent quirk, Ms. Ryukyu." Ryukyu let out a shocked expression as she asked, "You know of me?" Izuku nods as he said, "I quite liked your debut a lot, Ms. Ryukyu. So I did follow your fights and heroic actions quite a bit." Ryukyu then said, "Speaking of fights, did you see a handcuffed 𝗲𝗲? Izuku immediately cut her off by pulled a paper with a strange pattern on it. Izuku passed some chakra into the stasis seal as the villain fell out on his bum, still unconscious. Ryukyu's jaw was hanging as she shook her head vigorously and said, "𝗬𝗲, how did you do that?" Izuku laughed mentally as he spread him arms and in a monotone voice said, "Quirk." Ryukyu face planted as she got up and huffed a bit as she said, "Fine. Be all secretive and like that. I will take this villain to the police now then." Izuku stopped her as he placed the villain back in the stasis seal and said, "You still have to rest and have a meal. That healing was using your quirk energy to heal you, you must be exhausted too." Ryukyu had to agree, her legs feel like jelly. She sighed as she said, "Fine, have it your way." Izuku turned around and made a gesture for Ryukyu to follow him. Ryukyu walked behind Izuku as they both entered the room again. Izuku went through a hand sign and spit out a small fireball which lit the torches. Ryukyu was about to ask about it but remembered Izuku saying he can change his internal energy into elements. Ryukyu had to admit, That is a very versatile quirk. The weird stuff with the paper and storing living beings in paper must be a part of his quirk he must have created. Izuku pulled out a storage seal paper and passed some chakra through it as he took out a few sandwiches, soda, hamburgers and some salad. Izuku took out a picnic sheet and spread it on the ground and gave a cushion for Ryukyu to sit comfortably as well. Ryukyu sat down as she ate while asking Izuku some basic questions about his age, school, dreams. After a while, it was nearly 8 p.m., Ryukyu and Izuku had relaxing conversations with each others. Both had some interesting common likes. Ryukyu got up as she stretched and said, "Thanks, that was quite a fun time for me, a good break which I haven't taken in weeks." Izuku shook his head as he said, "You should definitely take more breaks, Ryukyu-san. It's good to take care of yourself too." Ryukyu then thought for a moment as she suddenly has a light bulb over her head as she said, "Well, I am still a fresh hero and don't have many friends. Why don't we share contacts and when I get breaks, we can hang out. I am sure it will be fun for me too like today." Izuku was gonna decline but after some internal debate he nodded as they shared their contact details to each other. Izuku showed Ryukyu the way down the mountain as Ryukyu called the police and Izuku released the villain from the stasis seal and turned to Ryukyu as he said, "It was a good time, Ms. Ryukyu. I have to go home now. It is getting late for me." Ryukyu gave a gentle smile as she said, "Please call me Ryuko or 𝗧𝗵𝗲. I am not that much older than you for you to call me Miss." Izuku nodded as he said, "All right then. See you later, 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san." Ryukyu waved goodbye as she said, "See you later too, Midoriya-san." Izuku held a hand sign and body flickered as Ryukyu stood there amazed at the speed. She was not even able to react to it. Third-person POV. Izuku arrived home. Inko opened the door as she said in a stern expression, "Why are you so late, Izuku?" Izuku knew it was trouble when his mom uses his full first name. He replied, "I found an injured hero and helped her heal so I am late." Inko had a disbelieving face but Izuku just sighed as he pulled out his phone and shown a selfie of him and Ryukyu during their mini-picnic. Inko's expression softened as she smiled widely and said, "I am glad you are making another friend, Izuku." Izuku just hummed in response and both went to the dining room for their dinner. Izuku then explained in detail about what happened as Inko listened carefully. Inko then said, "You know, I met this lovely woman named Rei in my shift today. She was put in the mental asylum even though she is gentle and nice. We made a nice conversation and somewhere along the way she mentioned that her son will also enter try to you. Through recommendations. Maybe you will be in the same class." Izuku nodded slightly as he said, "That is a possibility. I can try to make friends, but I don't want to expect too much." Inko nodded. She knew Izuku took his own time to trust people. She is already amazed by the fact that he met Ryukyu and is comfortable enough to call her a friend. She was happy on this development. After finishing dinner, the mother and son went to their respective rooms and turned in for the night. Momo saw a message on her chat between Izuku and herself. She saw that it was a selfie of Izuku and a heroine who she recognized as Ryukyu, who was one of Izuku's favorites. Momo let out a smile as she saw the friendly closeness in the selfie. She thought, "It's finally time you started to move on, Hux." The next morning, Izuku, done with his morning routine including training, is now making his to Momo's house so they can go to the 𝗳𝗱𝗡 Mall to hang out. While walking, Izuku was thinking whether or not to invite Ryukyu or not. It was a break day for her today. Izuku then decided to invite 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san at the end. This might be a good chance for Momo to make a new friend maybe. Izuku did see a few similarities on how both Momo and Ryuko carry themselves. Izuku can guess Ryukyu might be from a high-profile family or clan. Izuku went to contacts on his phone and after selecting Ryukyu's number, he pressed call. After a few rings, a voice came through the phone. "Midoriya-san. Good morning." Izuku in a bit of a gentle tone replied, "Good morning, 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san. You mentioned you have a break today, so I thought I could invite you to go to the 𝗳𝗱𝗡 Mall with myself and my friend Momo, whom I talked to you about." 𝗧𝗵𝗲 realized who the person was and replied on phone, "Momo-san, I would like it. I do have nothing to do today. And I should probably get some new clothes for casual wear as well. A fellow female's opinion would be nice." Izuku let out a as he said, "Well, seems like you are in then. We will meet at the mall as 10 a.m. then." Ryukyu's voice replied, "Sure, Midoriya-san, see you there then." Izuku replied, "See you there too, 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san." Ryukyu ended the call to get ready as Izuku, who just arrived at the front door of Momo's house, rang the bell. Athena opened the door as she smiled seeing Izuku and said, "Izu-chan, you must be here for the hangout with Momo then. She will be ready soon. Why not wait in the lounge? Akira is there too." Izuku nodded as he gave a small hug to his aunt, which she cheerfully returned and went towards the lounge. Arriving at the lounge, Izuku was Akira reading the newspaper as he greeted, "Hey Uncle Akira." Akira, hearing a familiar voice, put the newspaper down as he stood up and said, "Izuku, it's been a while since I saw you. What are you doing today?" Izuku then said, "I am going to the mall with Momo and another friend I made yesterday." Akira made a smile as he said, "You finally made a new friend, huh? Thought that day would never come." Izuku rolled his eyes as Akira laughed. Akira then suddenly reached out to grab Izuku's mask. Izuku just stopped Akira's hand as he held it up and said, "Nice try, uncle. You seem to be getting slower, maybe due to age." Akira had tics forming on his forehead as he started chasing Izuku around the room to try to get the mask off and see his face. Athena, who entered the room a few seconds ago, laughed at her husband's failed attempts. This was the scene Momo was greeted with as she came down. Akira was finally exhausted as he was, while Izuku just greeted Momo as if nothing happened. Akira got up with newfound determination as he swore, "One day. I swear to see that face one day." The rest of the room occupants, including the maids, sweat dropped at the sight as Momo and Izuku chuckled, and after saying goodbye, both left the house to walk to the nearby bus station. As soon as they were out of the gate, Izuku, who was walking next to Momo, said, "By the way, I invited Ryukyu to come with us too, hope you don't mind." Momo gave an excited smile as she said, "The women in the selfie you sent yesterday, I hope we can get along well. I do need more friends too, after all, my only friend is you." Izuku nodded as he said, "I thought the same. Ryukyu seems to carry herself elegantly like you, and both your manner of speech are similar as well. I thought you will get along." Momo nodded at Izuku's explanation as she was excited at the prospect of hopefully making a new friend today. Time skip 10 a.m. Izuku, who was wearing a black t-shirt with white collar and shoulder line as well as blue denim jeans, along with Momo, who was wearing dark blue jeans with a loose crimson-red t-shirt with a black collar and shoulder line. All in all, they both looked like normal teenagers out on a hangout. They both arrived at the entrance. Izuku heard a voice yell, "Midoriya-san." Both Izuku and Momo turned around as they saw Ryukyu jogging up to them. Ryukyu had her hair settled on the side with both eyes visible instead of only one due to her hero costume design. Ryukyu wore black t-shirt with a silver hoodie over it, and the zip of the hoodie was open. She also had black denim jeans to go with the hoodie. Ryukyu, who just arrived in front of Izuku, let out a small breath as she said, "Sorry, I was a bit late. I didn't realize I was waiting at the second entrance instead of the main one." Izuku and Momo chuckled a bit as Momo replied, "It's fine, Ryukyu-san, we both just arrived ourselves." Ryukyu turned her attention to Momo as she held out her hand and said, "Ah, you must be Momo-san. Izuku told me a lot about you yesterday." Momo accepted the handshake as she said, "My full name is Momo Yaoyorozu. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ryukyu-san." Ryukyu smiled as she said, "My name is Ryuko Tatsuma. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. You can call me with me name in public. I am not in my costume after all." Momo nodded as she said, "Very well, Tatsuma, should we get going then?" Ryukyu nodded as the three entered the mall. Izuku, leading the group, said, "Since it's still the early hours in the mall, let's go to bowling first. There might be a big line afterwards." The girls nodded as they took the escalators to the 5th floor. They arrived at the game center. It was fairly empty with a few teens and young adults around on the arcade machines. The three went to the counter as Ryukyu said, "Excuse me, we would like to book a row of bowling for the three of us." The man at the counter nodded as he typed in the game setting in the particular row and said, "Your row, the second one from the right. The total is 2,100 yen, please." Momo, Izuku and Ryukyu each chipped in 700 yen each as they paid for the game and went to their row. Time skip 1 hour. Since the gang was having fun, they paid for another game. Izuku won the first game, whereas the second game was a tie between Ryukyu and Momo. After bowling, Izuku pulled out a game center card and went to the counter and purchased 1,000 points into it as he decided that they will try out some of the arcade games. Izuku and Momo aced the tag basketball hoop game, making a new high score which added a lot of tickets to the card. Ryukyu did the game where you have to press the button to stop the fast-moving light in a certain prize. Ryukyu, after a bit of concentration, got the bonus which added 500 tickets to their card. The trio had a high five as they aced 2 games. The group did some competing games like horse racing where you have to throw the ball into a group of holes with 3 colors, namely white, yellow and red. White makes the horse move 1 step, yellow makes it move 2, while red makes it move 3. Momo won this one with Izuku in second. It was a non-ticket game. Then Momo and Ryukyu decided to tag team and play the throw ball game where you hit a target hard enough with the ball to topple it over. There are 30 targets and 1 minute to get them. The girls aced it as they got another 200 tickets added to the card with that. Izuku attempted the punching machine where you have to punch without using any quirk. Mutation quirks have a different machine for them. Izuku put on the gloves and punted the punching bag. The score rose up as it stopped at the highest, being 999. The girls cheered as well as the nearby audience as they got 400 tickets as prize for hitting the max at the punching machine. Author note: 2 days ago, I went to arcade with a few of my friends. This machines are what I played there. Of course I didn't get 999 on the punching machine. I got a decent 875 though, but did win a few games there. After a while the points in the card were over. The gang went to the ticket machine as Izuku flashed the card to the screen. It said the total tickets were 1,700. Izuku let out a silent cheer while Momo and Ryukyu high-fived from behind. The gang went to the ticket exchange counter and got a set of 3 bracelets for 1,500 tickets. Izuku took the black one whereas Momo took the silver-colored one and Ryukyu happily accepted the gold-colored one. The trio wore their bracelets as they took a selfie showing the bracelets. Momo and Ryukyu were complimenting the design of the bracelets while Izuku checked the time and saw it was lunchtime. Izuku then said, "Momo and 𝗧𝗵𝗲, let's go have lunch, it's almost 1:30 p.m. Momo looked at the time as she said, "Sure, I am started to feel hungry too now that you mentioned lunch." Ryukyu also nodded as Izuku said, "𝗧𝗵𝗲, you can choose a place for lunch then." Ryukyu thought for a bit as she said, "Why don't we go to sushi restaurant owned by Lunch Rush? I heard it opened a branch in the mall recently." Izuku and Momo instantly agreed after hearing that the restaurants were owned by Lunch Rush. Ryukyu took the lead as Izuku and Momo followed her to their next destination. Third-person POV. Our group of 3 exit the sushi restaurant as Ryukyu says, that has to be the best sushi restaurant I have ever gone to." Momo nodded as she added, "I agree, never have I had such sushi even through the pro chefs who were invited to cook at parties." Izuku's sweat dropped at Momo's habit of unintentionally gloating her wealth. Izuku sighed as he said, "As much as I hate to say this, the sushi were better than the ones my mom cooks." Momo had stars as she said, Oh, I remember that time, Aunt Inko invited me and Mom too. I really liked that sushi that Aunt Inko cooked." Ryukyu, listening to the two, said, "Must be quite a good cook if you are praising her cooking, Momo." Momo nodded excitedly as she said, "Yes, Aunt Inko can cook many cuisines. Me and Izuku always joke around her that she should start a restaurant." Izuku chuckles as he says, "That just leaves Mom flustered and unable to talk at the end." Momo laughed lightly, remembering her aunt's tendencies as Ryukyu says, "She sure sounds like someone I would very much like to meet." Izuku hummed in thought as he said, "Maybe in near future 𝗧𝗵𝗲." The group then walked into women's clothing section. Izuku respectfully decided to wait in the small lounge area provided. After making Izuku judge a number of Momo's clothes, making the nearby women smile at what they thought as a couple, Momo decided on 3 outfits. Meanwhile, Ryukyu shopped on her own and decided for 2 outfits. Meanwhile, the other one is a silver hoodie with black jeans and white t-shirt. The girls went to the counter and paid for their clothes as Ryukyu suggested, "Why don't you get some clothes too, Midoriya-san?" Izuku felt chills as he met Momo's fiery gaze as she took hold of him and said, "I am not missing the chance to make you buy some clothes this time, Izuku." Momo promptly dragged Izuku with Ryukyu smirking, looking at Izuku, who gave her a glare while being dragged by Momo. Momo dragged Izuku into a well-known men's clothing store as she released Izuku and looked at him sternly and said, "Now, you will either choose a few outfits or 𝗧𝗵𝗲 and I will do it for you." Izuku saluted as he dashed to a brand to see if there are any ones he likes. After 10 minutes, Izuku came back with 3 outfits as he said, "These are the only ones which caught my attention." Ryukyu then said, "Try it on and show us then." Izuku nodded as he went into the trial room. Obviously with the mask. Izuku then did a turn and said, "How is this one?" Momo smiled as she said, "Interesting choice. The even being a shade of orangish brown suits the t-shirt well." Ryukyu decided to tease a bit as she said, "You only got the t-shirt because of the inscribing of all might rights." Izuku rubbed the back of his neck as he said, "Busted." With a closed eyes smile. Izuku then went back in and after 4 minutes came out in an oversized sweater and blue cotton. Ryukyu first commented, "Interesting choice. It makes a warm atmosphere around you." Momo nodded as she added, "And the colors really suit you too. But why the oversized one?" Izuku rubbed his hands together as he said, "Comfy." The girls stared blankly at Izuku, who was in his own world enjoying the warmth. Momo clapped her hands in front of Izuku, pulling him out of his daze as she said, "Well, show the final one." Izuku nodded as he lazily went back in. Ryukyu chuckled as she said, "I never knew 𝗧𝗵𝗲's favorite were warm sweaters." Momo humphed as she said, "You should have seen last winter. Izuku was practically hibernating for except his training time." Ryukyu chuckled at her own image of a chibi Izuku wrapped in oversized blankets. Izuku then came out in his final outfit of choice. Both girls dragged out their surprised sound as Ryukyu said, "This is definitely the one which suits you the most, Midoriya." Momo nodded vigorously as she said, "It seriously looks like it's made especially for you." Izuku gave a smile as he went back to the trial rooms and changed back to his normal outfits and went to the counter to pay for the clothes. After buying the clothes, Izuku saw a music shop on the other side as he said, "Hey, let's check out the music shop there. I see some instruments as well." The girls gave their agreements as the group walked over and entered into the shop. The shop was definitely bigger than they thought. Izuku saw a guitar and piano on display as he asked the counter person, "Excuse me, can we try out the piano and guitar?" The counter person gave their agreement as Izuku and Momo made their way to the instruments. Izuku looked at Momo as he asked, "Remember that tune we practiced a while ago?" Momo thought for a bit and said, "Yep, we did spend a week on it." Izuku nodded as he said, "Let's give 𝗧𝗵𝗲 a show then." Momo smiled in agreement and sat in front of the piano, while Izuku took hold of the guitar. This gathered the attention of someone who was checking to see if there are any new labels. Check out their video. The video was not made by me. A few people in the store stared at the duo who played their tone. Ryukyu was impressed as she clapped with a wide smile at the end of it as she commented, "Wow. Midoriya-san and Momo-san, you both did so well." Momo gave a smile in return as they heard another voice say, "Yes, that was in perfect sync too. You both did really good." The gang saw a girl who was 5 feet 5 inches and handsome facial features with purple hair and black eyes which looked half-lidded. Izuku replied, "Thanks for the compliment." The individual said, "It's no problem, I am 𝗬𝗍𝗫. It's nice to meet some fellow musicians my age." Momo gave a beaming smile as she said, "I am Yaoyorozu Momo. It's good to meet you too, and these are my friends Izuku Midoriya and Ryuko Tatsuma." Izuku and Ryukyu waved and greeted at Jirou, who waved back. Izuku then asked, "Do you lay any instruments to Jirou-san?" Jirou with a small smile nodded as she said, "I can play many ones like triangle, guitar, bass, keyboard and violin." Momo gave her expression of awe as she leaned closely to Jirou and said, "Wow, that is so cool. You must be planning on becoming a musician then." Jirou laughed a bit at Momo's enthusiasm as she said, "Haha, but no, I want to become a hero and a singer and musician too." The others looked shocked as Ryukyu said, "But won't that make it very exhausting and busy for you?" Jirou gave a wide smile as she said, "If I am able to make someone smile at the end of the day, it's all that matters." The three looked at Jirou in a higher light as Momo began excitedly talking to Jirou. Izuku and Ryukyu occasionally joined in. Momo was very excited to talk to Jirou. She felt that both of them are quite similar in their goals too. After a while, the group shared their numbers with Jirou as Jirou left them to go home. Izuku, after Jirou left, looked at the time and saw it was 5 p.m. Izuku then turned to the females and said, "Well girls, it's 5 p.m. right now. Anything you guys want to do, or we can go to cafe for some ice cream?" The girls agreed to the ice cream plan. Time skipped 1 hour. The group finished their ice cream and separated for a bit to check out anything interesting for themselves and agreed to meet at the entrance of the mall. Izuku and Momo met up with Ryukyu at the entrance as Izuku asked, "Have you gotten anything, 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san?" Ryukyu nodded as she said, "Yeah, I went around and got a new water bottle for myself. What about you two?" Izuku and Momo looked at each other and Izuku presented something wrapped in gift cover to Ryukyu as Momo said, "This is a friendship gift from both of us to you. We hope our friendship will last forever." Ryukyu had a tear escape her eyes which she wiped and accepted the gift. She unwrapped the cover and found Ryukyu let out a gasp as she said, "This watch looks really nice." Izuku let out a breath of relief as Momo said, "Izuku chose this one for you as I quote he said, I am sure 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san will love a gift to remember us by every moment." And bought the watch. Ryukyu's face grew a wide smile which her cheeks being tinted a bit of red as she said, "Thanks a lot Midoriya-san, for this gift and this friendship." Izuku then feeling as if it's the right moment pulled down his mask, an action which made Momo and Ryukyu's eyes widen in shock as they finally saw his face. Momo was petrified in shock but immediately pulled out her phone as Izuku gave a gentle smile as he said, "I am thankful for our new friendship too 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san." Momo and Ryukyu's faces tinged red as Momo thought, he finally showed his face after years. "Kya, I can't wait to show this to him and Dad and Annie." While Ryukyu thought, he said he never showed his face without mask for more than 6 years. To show it to me must mean how sincere he is about this. Ryukyu's face flushed more as Izuku put his mask back up, an action which caused Momo to pout as she complained, "Mao, you never showed your face to anyone, even Aunt Inko, now you suddenly do it for 𝗧𝗵𝗲-san. This is unfair." Momo pouted more and looked away as Izuku's sweat dropped and said, "Fine, I am sorry, okay. I will even cook your favorite choco cake for you as dessert tonight." Momo's mood took a complete 180 as she beamed at Izuku and said, "It's a promise." Ryukyu laughed at their antics. After a while Ryukyu said, "Well, it's starting to get dark. Let's go home." Izuku and Momo nodded as they all went their separate ways with Izuku fearing for Uncle Akira's reaction. Third-person POV. Izuku and Momo arrived after the hangout at the mall. On the way, Izuku was trying hard to convince Momo to delete the picture of his full face. But Momo didn't do it and said that she will do it if Izuku stops wearing the mask from now. This made Izuku silent as he gave up and prepared to face his uncle's wrath. Momo swiped her card at the gate as the gate opened and Momo made a dash towards her house as Izuku, wanting his last moments, went to his home to keep the clothes in the cupboard. Momo's POV. I am so excited to show this pic to my parents. Izuku deserves it for hiding his face from me after all I tried to make him take it off. But he sure looked handsome. And his smile. I wish to see that again and feel like I can get lost staring at it. I shoved the doors open which made a big sound as Mom, who was in the hall, was alerted and she asked, "What's wrong, sweetie? You sure put a lot of power into opening the doors." I made an embarrassed chuckle as I said, "Mom, I took a photo of Izuku's full face." Mom dropped her teacup which broke on contact with the floor as she practically teleported to my side and yelled, "What? Is it true, sweetie? You managed to see Izuku's face? How?" I was about to explain but I heard a loud voice scream, "WWWXT." Izuku showed his face. I had to cover my ears with how loud my dad's voice was. I looked to see Dad running down the stairs as he shook my shoulders and yelled, "Tell me, Momo, why did he show it?" I was dizzy at this point as I managed to say, "Tid, why you are 𝗵𝗃 wife." Dad heard me as he stopped shaking me back and forth but kept his undivided attention on what I will say as Mom said, "Hurry and tell sweetie, how did you capture a pic of Izuku's face without mask?" I then listed how Izuku wanted to show his sincere feeling to Ryukyu for our friendship as my parents listened without a word. Mom said, "Wow. This new friend of yours must mean a lot to Izuku if he was willing to go as far. Akira then in a blank voice, so, I did all the things I did just so he reveals his face to someone new. Dad now had a cloud of depression above him as Mom and I laughed at him. Mom then slowly stopped laughing as she said, well, what are you waiting for? Show us the pic. Dad lost his depression cloud as he came to my side as eagerly waited for Mai to show the pic. I opened up my gallery and I showed them. Mom and Dad gave out sounds of shock and awe as Mom first said, Mai, I knew Izuku would grow up to be good-looking but not to an extent of a model. I narrowed my eyes at Mom, whom I am getting bad vibes from, as Dad said, stop it dear, you seem to be making Momo jealous. But I have to admit his looks rival models. I blushed at Dad's implication of me being jealous. And asked, how long did you two know about my love for Izuku? Both of them chuckled as Mom said, oh dear Momo, we knew for 4 years. You were quite obvious with your affections and from your rejections to proposals by the kids of famous businessmen at the parties. I sighed as I said, I want to confess now, but Izuku is just recently getting better with new friends and he finally showed his face too. Which is a big improvement for him. So I don't want to add this as a burden for him. Dad sighed as he said, you are such a good girl Momo, I am sure Izuku loves you too. Momo then added, you do have to fight off a lot of people though if Izuku decided to show people his face. That made me pout. The thought of girls approaching him for his looks makes me mad. Izuku's POV. I heard a large voice of Uncle Akira and made a beeline to home. I then rang the bell as Mom opened the door and said, Izuku-san, welcome back, how was your day with Momo-chan? I answered, it was fun Mom, made new friend and even invited Tatsuma-san with us. Mom nodded her head as a few tears came out of her eyes as she said, I am glad you are finally opening up to people and making friends Izu-chan. It hurt me that you never made any friends in middle school. I sighed, I should have known my behavior would affect Mom too, she is too caring after all. I gave Mom a hug as I said, I will be fine Mom, I am making new friends too. It's just 4 more months for you. And my last school day is tomorrow. Mom nodded as I went to my room for a bath. I thought about it and during my bath. I just felt like I should show my face. Oh well, let's leave this for now. I need to plan about training for next 4 months. Kurama then said, well Kit, why not practice more on the Thunder God technique? You are unable to do it a lot. You can practice to get more familiar with it and not waste as much chakra as you are. I nodded and added, I should also practice with the adamantine chains. Thunder God technique and adamantine chain do make a good combo against multiple opponents. Kurama gave his opinion. I agree, if you can finally achieve to be able to flash to anywhere in the diameter of the kunai, 10 meters is said to be max. Maybe you can surpass that. I nodded as I suddenly remembered something and asked, where were you last 2 days Kurama-sensei? Sensei said, I just did some training to myself to adjust to my recovering chakra. I am at 95% right now. I smiled happy for Kurama-sensei as I finally got out of the bath and wore some clothes and went down for dinner. Time skip next day afternoon. Third person POV. The last PRD just ended. The students were either celebrating for graduating junior high or crying because they are going to be separated from their friends. Katsuki just finished saying goodbye to his friends as he turned to where Izuku was packing his bag. Katsuki slowly approached Izuku and was just about to call him. Izuku without turn back asked, do you need something Bakugo-san? Bakugo was a bit shocked that Izuku knew he was there without Bakugo himself announcing his presence. Bakugo shook it off and said, well, the court declared me to be eligible to participate in the U.A. entrance exam. Izuku hummed in thought and said, that is good for you then. Bakugo knew that their relationship cannot ever return to being best friends, but was happy that at least they could talk to each other. Bakugo then said, I wish you the best at the entrance exam Midoriya-san. Izuku then turned his head as he faced Katsuki. One thing Katsuki noticed is that Izuku's eyes were not as blank as they were throughout these 3 years. Izuku then said, good luck to you too Bakugo-san, you did work hard last 3 years for this. Bakugo nodded as Izuku got up and left the classroom as Bakugo looked into the sky he window and thought, I wonder how things would have been if what happened between us didn't happen. Izuku just left the school building and was walking home as he thought, From tomorrow, the real hell begins. I won't have the usual time I did to spend with Momo or 𝗬𝗪𝗻. My only free days are Sundays after all. Kurama said, "That's right, kid. The next few months will be tough, but it will definitely be worth it." Izuku nodded his head, agreeing with Kurama as he started jogging home. Izuku saw Ryukyu on her patrol as their eyes met as Izuku gave her a wave and a close-eyed smile to which Ryukyu just smiled in return. They can't expose their friendship in public after all. Izuku arrived at the gate and flashed his card. The gate opened up revealing Akira with a sweet smile. Izuku started to get ready as Akira said, "You showed your face that simply after all the trouble I went through. I even offered you 10 million for you to show your face while you went ahead and showed it to someone who you just befriended." Izuku channeled chakra into his legs ready as Akira jumped at Izuku to grab him, but Izuku flashed away as Akira started chasing Izuku while using various machines to grab Izuku as Izuku was just flashing around the blind spots as Izuku thought, "This is nice evasion training. Too bad Uncle Akira isn't faster." After 20 minutes, Akira got tired as Athena brought some lime soda for them both. Izuku accepted as Athena had to make the exhausted Akira open his mouth to drink. Izuku chuckled as he flickered away to his house. Izuku opened the door and went aside and remembered, "Oh yeah, Mom is on her evening shift today." Inko was just bored staying at home, so she is working part-time as a nurse for 3 hours a day. Izuku went to his room and changed into his training outfits and refilled his kunai and shuriken storage tattoos. Izuku also put his own Thunder God seal mark on more kunai than usual for practice. Izuku then wrote a note for his mom on a sticky note and attached it to the fridge. Izuku then locked the door and went to the training clearing in between the trees behind the house. Izuku then did some warm-ups and after a 10-minute sprint between the trees. Izuku now stood in the middle of the clearing with 5-6 feet wood logs in different directions. Izuku then threw one kunai at the first one. As soon as the kunai was beside the log in air, Izuku suddenly appeared catching the kunai in one hand and slashing through the log with the 𝗬𝗪𝗏 which had wind chakra surrounding it to make it sharp. Izuku then as he landed threw 3 more of his kunai at 3 other posts. Izuku in time flashed 3 times but noticed that it took more effort to get to the third one and was slower too, but still managed to cut through all the logs in air whilst in different positions. Izuku developed his own style of kenjutsu which involves swinging from different angles whilst mid-air. Izuku then used flash step while he appeared 10 meters behind the final log. And in a green flash appeared behind the log as the log was chopped in two. This method that Izuku developed is that when he uses flash step, he will mark his opponents with the Thunder God seal which was prepared in advance and appear a distance away. While the opponent turns to where he flashed, he will appear behind and knock them out with a punch or chop. This was for friendly battles. In villain battles, Izuku will at least smash their head to the ground. Izuku then thought, "I am able to do Thunder God at level 1 but the chakra consumption should be trained. As for level 2, which is flashing to multiple kunais in the same area, this technique takes less chakra and is effective for group fights. But I am only able to get 4 at a time. I should improve that. This is my goal for 4 months along with able to use more adamantine chains. My other priority is to make lightning step more controllable so I can move mid-step to apply the Thunder God seal to my opponents." Izuku then gets up as he says, "Yash, time to train so hard that Kurama-sensei will be scared." Bigger chapter than usual. Third-person POV. Months later, logs were seen in front of a person as the said person throw a kunai with a seal on it and forms hand signs and says, "Kunai shadow clone jutsu." The kunai multiplies into 80 and as the kunais were near the logs, a green flash was seen around the wooden logs and a second later, the multiplied kunais disappear as a 6 feet tall man appears next to the real kunai and grabs it with one hand while his other hand is seen holding a huge clover sword. The wood logs then suddenly get cut into 2 and fall to the group as the person lands on the ground. Izuku loosens his muscles as he thinks, "So, 80 is my limit for now, huh? Not bad. I think that is quite an achievement in 4 months." In his mind he hears, "That is a lot of improvement in using Thunder God technique kit. Now, let's see how you are with the chains." Izuku nodded and instantly 10 chains appeared on his hands, each chain connected to 1 finger. This was something Izuku worked really hard on. To be able to summon the chains from his hands instead of back. Well, mainly due to not wanting to buy clothes every time the chains tear through them. Izuku has full control of the chains using his fingers and has practiced to form the adamantine chains barrier, which is achieved after being able to mstr 10 chains. The barrier is formed when the chains are positioned in a circular position around an area and Izuku passes chakra through them to form a barrier. Izuku knows a weakness of the chains. Unless he is able to catch the enemy by surprise, there is a chance that they might be able to dodge the chains. So, Izuku's aim from here is not to increase the number but perfect his control over them. Izuku then started using the chains like a 𝗬𝗪𝗴 hitting the ground, constantly engraving marks on it. Izuku knew how deadly strong the chains were. Izuku swore to never use them against an ally unless it is for saving people. Kurama nodded as he said, "Good kid, you got decent control over them. Now to see how much your lightning step progressed and we are ready for the exam." Izuku nodded as lightning arcs sparked around Izuku's legs as Izuku disappeared and appeared behind the already cut down logs and cutting them more. Lightning step is his fastest move if he is in a one-on-one fight. But against a number of people. Thunder God level 2 is his go. Izuku trained physically more too. He removed the resistance seals at the beginning as they can no longer help him. Izuku also stopped with the weights. Kurama then said, "Well kit, now for the final. To see if you the Chidori sword." The one technique Izuku learned which is quite useful since he has the 𝗵𝗃𝗃. Izuku concentrated a bit and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 glowed in a mixture of white and blue with electricity crackling around it. Izuku flashed behind a few meters behind a tree and slashed at midair. A blue crescent arc which was 4 meters wide traveled as it cut through numerous trees before it dissipated. Izuku can also control this technique as to not cut through his enemies but paralyze them. Izuku then let out a small breath as he said, "Well then, I am fully prepared for the exams tomorrow." Kurama smiled. Never had Kurama seen someone so young, be so strong. But Kurama knew, there is always unknown dangers in this world. Major or minor, it's best to be prepared for them. With Momo is a bit nervous for tomorrow. Her recommendation exam was already held a week ago. She knows she did good. She even got first in the obstacle race and just behind her was a guy with a wind quirk and third place was a boy with half white and half red hair. Momo won because she made rollerblades powered by a small thruster. Momo practiced all kinds of means of transportations which are allowed for her age and was good with all of them. And her balance is top tier after taking some advices from Izuku. Thinking of Izuku, Momo sighed as she thought, "These 4 months, we only hung out a few times as Izuku spent all the time training. But at least I got to spend more time with Tatsuma-san and Jirou-chan." Yep, Momo was quick to become best friends with Ryukyu and Kyuka. They all hung out on the weekends. Ryukyu missed Midoriya as she only got to hang out with him a few times. But Midoriya did text her and call her whenever he was free or whenever Ryukyu calls him. Jirou also grew to be a nice friend to Izuku. Both preferred silence and both loved music as well and they hit it off. Momo looked at the sky as she thought, "I hope I can confess my feelings to Izuku one day, but not anytime soon since we will be busy getting used to the new life of being a hero student." What Momo didn't know is that her feelings for Izuku was something Ryukyu also shared for him. Ryukyu is in denial of her feelings since she knows Momo is in love with Izuku. But she can't help it. Ryukyu hoped that she will somehow be able to get out of this dilemma. The next morning, Momo looked at her watch as she was walking to Izuku's house. It's currently 6:30 a.m. Izuku told Momo that he will get a long sleep to relax his body and wake up completely fresh. Momo volunteered to wake him up, to which Izuku agreed. Momo reached the door of the Midoriya villa. Momo then rang the bell a couple times. Inko opened the door and let out a wide smile seeing who rang the bell as she exclaimed, "Momo, it's been weeks since I saw you. Are you here to wish Izu-chan good luck for his entrance?" Momo hugged her aunt as she said, "I missed you too, Auntie Inko. Yes, I am here to wish luck to Izuku and also wake him up." Inko let out a gasp as she said, "Oh my, Izuku hasn't woken up yet. I am afraid we are in for a storm then." Momo chuckled at her aunt's antics as she pulled back from the hug and went towards Izuku's room. Momo opened the door as she saw Izuku still asleep with the mask on his face. Momo smiled seeing Izuku in a peaceful state, but he needs to get ready for the exam. A pity she can't appreciate his beauty for some time. Momo went towards the bed and shook Izuku a few times. Izuku then slowly opened his eyes, and after seeing Momo, he got into a sitting position as he yawns and says, "Good morning, Momo-chan." Izuku's brain was still not completely awake to register what he just said, while Momo was wide-eyed with her face growing a shade of pink. Izuku got up from the bed and went towards the bathroom to wash his face and brush his teeth while Momo uses this opportunity to stop blushing. She thought, "Gee. He called me Momo-chan like he used to when we were kids." He sounded so sleepy that it made it better, as if he was greeting his wife in the morning. Momo became red at the thought of being Izuku's wife as she ran downstairs to clam down. Izuku got out of the bathroom as he stretched a bit and walked downstairs. Izuku spots his mom watching TV as he says, "Good morning, Mom." Inko looked back with a smile as she greeted back. Izuku looks at the time as he says, "Well, the exam starts at 10 a.m. I will go to shower at 8 a.m. and leave by 9 a.m. Mom." Inko nodded as she went back to watching TV while Izuku goes to the hall. Izuku sees Momo waiting while sitting on the sofa as he says, "Hey Momo, thanks for waking me up." Momo smiles as she says, It's fine, Izuku-kun, I did volunteer after all." Izuku and Momo start talking about what Izuku can expect in the exam. Momo then says, "Anyways, I received a message from you. That I can watch the exam too, if I want to." Izuku, with a tone filled with a bit of excitement, said, "Oh, are you gonna come with me too?" Momo nodded to the question as Izuku excused himself to get ready for the exam. Time skip 9:30 a.m. Izuku is standing in front of the U.A. entrance exam location with a bag on which contains his clothes during the physical part of the exam. Momo then turned to Izuku and said, "Good luck then, Izuku, I will watch from the teacher's lounge." Izuku gave a smile as he said, "Thanks, Momo. I will do my best and aim for the top." Momo smiled as she went towards the teacher's lounge while Izuku started walking towards the writing exam location. After showing his hall ticket to the heroes to enter into the class, Izuku spots his seat and sits down, deciding to wait for next 20 minutes for the exam to start. Izuku then sees pro hero 𝗧𝗪𝗲 coming into the hall with a stack of papers. 𝗧𝗪𝗲 then announces, "All right, hero hopefuls. You exam will be choose the correct answer type. You have 100 questions and 1 hour to complete. I will distribute the sheets now." 𝗧𝗪𝗲 divides into several clones, each going to a row of students to give them the question sheet. After giving question sheets to all the examinees, 𝗧𝗪𝗲 announces, "All right, you can begin the exam now. Any kinds of malpractice will result in immediate removal from the exam and getting blacklisted from ever trying out U.A. entrances." Many gulped at the warning as everyone dive into their exam. Minutes later, Izuku's POV. "I finished my exam and checked my answers twice too. I should submit it now then." I rose my hand as one of 𝗧𝗪𝗲's clones saw it and asked, "Anything you want, hero hopeful?" I nodded as I said, "Well sir, I am done with my exam and cross-checked my answers too. I would like to submit my exam sheet." Everyone was shocked as 𝗧𝗪𝗲 took my answer sheet and said, "Go to the auditorium and wait for everyone to gather there as your final exam announcement will be there. There are arrows pointing at the directions if you need them." I nodded as I put my pen in the bag and took my hall ticket and went out of the written exam hall and following the signs which point towards the auditorium. I entered the hall and searched for my seat. After I found my seat, I saw the doors open and in entered someone wide known. It's 𝗵𝗃 saw me and gave a look of surprise as he asked, "You are done with the written part already? There is still time left." I answered, "I am already done, sir. May I ask why you are here?" 𝗵𝗃 smirked as he said, "Well, I am the announcer who will give you instructions about the next part. I am just going behind stage to prepare my entrance." I nodded as the hero walked behind the curtains and disappeared. I closed my eyes to have a little rest before everyone gathers. I woke up hearing noises as I looked around and saw people filling up the auditorium. I looked to the right of me and saw a girl with green vine-like hair with thorns. The girl seems to be praying to God, it seems. Well, I won't disturb her since everyone has their way to cope with their fears. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 then appeared onto the stage with a burst of smoke. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 then said, "All right, hero hopefuls, can I get why?" The entire auditorium was silent. I felt pity for the hero, but yelling is not my forte. I prefer the silence. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 went on with explaining about the 1, 2, 3 pointers as well as what they look like. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 was interrupted by a decently tall hopeful with glasses and blue hair. He was shaking his hands up and down as he asked questions to 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 then explained about the 0 pointer and how there is no significance in battling it. I just accepted it. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 then said to look at the zone letter given in the hall ticket. I am in zone A, it seems. I then exited the auditorium along with the rest as everyone got into their respective buses which leads them to their zone. Each zone has 10 buses going to them. After 10 minutes, we got down from the bus and saw a huge wall running across. To seemingly endless. UA must be very rich to be able to actually use a city-sized zone. And there are multiple of it. In the faculty room. Third-person POV. There were 26 heroes in total along with Principal and Momo. Each hero was assigned to a zone to watch out for promising ones. 𝗫𝗍 turned to Momo as he said, "Well, Yaoyorozu-san, you are the only one from the recommendations who accepted to watch the normal entrances. May I know why?" Momo gave a small smile as she answered, "Because my friends are in this too. And I know they will do their best." 𝗫𝗍 just hummed in acceptance as Midnight decided to tease a little as she said, "Ah, how cute, is one of them your crush?" Midnight meant it as a joke, but seeing Momo's cheeks redden. Midnight jumps up as she says, "Oh, one of them is your crush. Tell me, who is it?" Midnight was pulled back by 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 as he said, "Now Midnight, leave the poor girl alone. You need to judge." Midnight pouted but reluctantly accepted and went back to her section. Electroplasm clones then arrived at each zones. Izuku's POV. I saw an electroplasm clone appear as it said, "When the gates open, the exam begins." I was already done with the warm-up. I sensed the area already and saw that most of the robots were in the far northwest corner. The others will concentrate to get points as soon as they can so I can have that area to myself. I saw the doors open as I immediately dashed out. I then made a ram sign and flickered towards my spot. After a few seconds, I appeared on top of a building. I saw a numerous number of robots. They all seemed to have located me as everyone started gathering at the bottom. I then took out my 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 from the seal and unsealed a thunder god kunai. I then threw it and immediately went through hand signs and mentally yelled, "Kunai Shadow Clone Jutsu." The kunai I threw multiplied into 100 as some already hit the robots, making a hole and killing them as they embedded into the ground. I then got ready. In the teacher's lounge. Midnight was observing Zone A as she saw a hopeful suddenly teleport to one of the zone corners. Midnight let out a squeak of surprise as she said, "𝗫𝗍, I think we have a student with a teleporting quirk here." 𝗫𝗍, who was intrigued, came to the screen and saw the hopeful on top of a building as he brought out a sword out of nowhere. 𝗫𝗍, who was confused, said, "He has multiple quirks." Momo then answered, "No sir, that boy is Izuku Midoriya, he is one of the friends I was talking about. His quirk is a sentient quirks which mutated his body to be able to use something called internal energy. The sentient being taught Izuku various ways to use it." 𝗫𝗍 was now fully invested after hearing Momo's explanation and paid extra attention to the screen. The teen then brought out a throwing knife-shaped object. The teen threw it as made some strange signs as the throwing knife multiplied by hundreds. The next part was a scene 𝗫𝗍 and Midnight won't forget. All they saw was a green flash appearing all over the robots. In a few seconds, the teen appeared on the last throwing knife as 𝗫𝗍 and Midnight had their jaws open as all the robots were cut in pieces. The boy alone got 150 points. The highest in history in just 2 minutes since the exam began. Midnight then yelled, "What was that? That speed is unreal. And you, this is unbelievable." 𝗫𝗍 calmly answered, "I know Midnight, I saw too. Looks like we got ourselves a promising student." Midnight dumbly nodded. Back to Izuku. Izuku's POV. After slashing through the robots. I knew that would be enough score and am now running back to the main area to see how others will do. After seeing a tall building, I flickered on top of it. I then stood on the edge and saw the students fight the robots. I saw hopefuls were just running around doing nothing. I felt pity for them. They must not have any combat-related quirk. Minutes passed as I felt the ground shake suddenly. I turned to the left and saw a giant robot, at least 200 feet tall, going towards the area with most students. That must be the zero-pointer. Man, that is big. I was not gonna bother with it until I felt a presence not moving at all, and it was in the way of the zero-pointer. I turned back around and saw the green vine-haired girl who sat beside me, down stuck in rubble as she was desperately trying to use her vines to escape. I immediately used Flash Step as I appeared beside her. I enhanced my hands with chakra as I was able to remove the boulders. I saw that the girl's leg had a lot of bruises and her ankle was a bit twisted too. I then held her in my arms as she tightened her grip on me. I then ran with enhancing my chakra. Using Flash Step is not a good solution since she might vomit from it or pass out. I then gently placed her down near the entrance. The girl cried as she said, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." Nobody tried to help and everyone ran away. You were the only one who helped me. I don't know what would have happened to me. The girls cried as I said, "Don't worry, you are fine. Just wait here, okay? I will take out that big butt robot. I am pretty sure it malfunctioned." In the teacher's lounge, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏, seeing the girls stuck under boulders in the way of the zero-pointer, said, "Quick, Midnight, press the emergency stop button." Midnight pressed it, but the robot still kept moving. Midnight then yelled, "The emergency malfunctioned. 𝗫𝗍𝗍, what do we do?" 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 looked down in sorrow as he said, "We are too far away, we can't do anything now." They then heard Momo say, "Don't lose hope, sir. Watch the screen." The other heroes also came to check the screen as they heard Midnight yell. They all saw how a tall teen with a mask covering his face from below the nose as he appeared right beside the stuck girl. With incredible strength lifted the rubble and gently held the girl and sped away right in time to avoid being crushed. They all saw with agape mouths as the teen zoomed to the starting gate and placed the girl there. They heard the encouraging words as All Might said, "Such a heroic soul the boy has. And his speed, it's on a whole new level." Other heroes nodded as Eraserhead, who was silent, said, "Speed, it's one of the most important aspects of our career. To save lives and to rescue them, we need to be quick and precise. This boy has the potential to be a hero." Present Mike, Midnight and 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 were shocked at Aizawa's statement. Momo, looking at the praise, thought, "Izuku, you managed to prove yourself. Congrats." Back to the screen, they saw the boy take out the huge sword again. Upon looking closely, the heroes saw wind-like energy around the blunt sword. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 commented, "He is using wind to make his sword sharper to cut through the robots." The heroes were shocked at how many aspects the boy's quirk has. They saw as the wind energy around the sword became longer and more visible. The wind energy itself was at least 20 feet. The boy then disappeared as they saw the camera move quickly as the boy was now seen descending from the sky. The boy slashed his sword, which cut through the zero-pointer like nothing and landed on the ground. The boy then said, "See, everything is fine." That sentence carried waves as it made everyone look in awe at the green-haired boy. Third-person POV. Izuku exited from the exam site after ensuring that 𝗵𝗲𝗏 was in safe hands. He was nearing the exit as he saw Momo waiting there for him. Momo let out a huge smile as Izuku approached her as she said, "That was so cool, Aizu. You looked like a real hero there." Izuku gave a eye smile as he said, "Thanks, Momo. I just wanted that girl to be safe is all. The robot seemed to have malfunctioned." Momo nodded as she explained, "That is true, even the emergency stop button for the robot didn't stop it. The teachers gave up hope too. Only I believed you can save her." Momo had a bright smile as Izuku, in an unexpected way, gave her a sudden hug as he whispered, "Thanks a lot, Momo." Izuku then let go of Momo as he said, "Let's go home then." Momo was still dumbfounded as Izuku let out a small chuckle and started walking as a red-faced Momo got out of her state of shock and jogged to catch up. Momo was internally dancing in joy. Izuku never initiated giving a hug to someone except Aunt Inko. Momo was always the one giving hugs. No wonder she was shocked. Both got home as Momo informed her parents of today's events, as both of them congratulated Momo on being one step closer to her crush. 𝗵𝗃 greeted Izuku with a smile and 2 bowls of katsudon ready and piping hot in her hands as she said, "Welcome back, Izuku. I am sure you are tired. Why don't you eat while telling me the details?" Izuku gave a smile and a nod as he took the bowls from 𝗵𝗃, and both sat at the table with 𝗵𝗃 listening to Izuku's POV of the exam. Time skipped 1 week. Izuku spent his time relaxing and training every day while waiting for his letter from you. Momo already got hers and she is in class 1A. Both families celebrated as they went to resort for a day. It was a really big resort, can be a size of a village too. There were many events including a beach with borders so sea animals won't enter. Izuku had his fun on many water sports while Momo was on the speedboat and water bike most of the bike. Momo took a video of Izuku somehow falling off the water bike, which she teased him a lot about while Izuku was begging her not to show it to their parents. Which worked, but Momo asked for a hug which Izuku gave while Momo, who was not surprised this time, hugged back happily. We are now at the Midoriya villa with Izuku in his room chatting with Ryukyu. "Ryukyu, what do it do T to the power of T? In a few days, I have my first modeling for a brand who is sponsoring me. I am more nervous since I will also be modeling with a male too." Izuku, "Oh, don't worry. You will do good. Just don't become a malfunctioning robot when you get there." Ryukyu, "You are not helping unamused face." Izuku, "Maybe I will be the male model. Oh, will that help?" Ryukyu, "Definitely, but we both know it won't happen, dash." Izuku, "Yep. Oop, BRB. Mom's calling me." Ryukyu, "Sure, later Izuku." Izuku pocketed his phone as he went down to see why his mom called him. 𝗵𝗃 was very excited since she just got back from shopping and noticed a mail in the mailbox of both families. 𝗵𝗃 took the mail and seeing it was from you. She assumed it will be Izuku's results and called upon him. Izuku arrived in front of his mom as he said, "Need help with anything?" 𝗵𝗃 shook her hands as she showed Izuku an envelope as she said, "Let's look at your results from the 𝗬𝗍 entrance exam." Izuku's eyes sparked in excitement as he said, "Please wait a minute, Mom, I will call Momo over too. She will kill me if I didn't call her for my results." 𝗵𝗃 nodded as Izuku quickly called Momo. A few minutes later, the whole Yaoyorozu family appeared as Izuku questioned, "I expected Aunt Athena, but aren't you busy, Uncle?" Akira, throwing his hands up, said, "Anything to get away from a meeting with some other company's old geezers trying to collab with me." Everyone let out a laugh as Izuku tore open the envelope as a disc fell onto the table and turned itself on as a projection of 𝗍𝗍 appeared. 𝗍𝗍 said, "Hello Izuku Midoriya, I am 𝗍𝗍, the principal of 𝗬𝗍 school. I am here in form of a projection to inform you of your results. With a whooping 98%, you got the highest in the writing part, and with a total of 126 villain points, you are also the top scorer in the physical department. This alone is more than enough to get into you. But we won't be a hero school if the exam was just focused of defeating robots. With your extreme abilities, you have saved the young girl from a possible death. The robot malfunctioned. We apologize to the girl's parents, and you have got a whooping 70 rescue points, which puts your total to 196 points, setting the record for the highest ever score achieved in the 𝗬𝗍 entrance exams. You are in class 1A and the school term starts exactly 58 days from today. Now the letter will self-destruct." Izuku quickly seals up the disc so it won't explode in everyone's faces as he was suddenly enveloped in a group hug by everyone there. Everyone was proud on the score Izuku achieved and the praise he got from the principal itself. After a while, everyone got off the hug pile, leaving a swirl-eyed Izuku as Akira, seeing this as a chance, dived in to take off the mask, but Izuku puffed as a wooden log appeared in the place as Akira hit his fingers and let out a yell of pain. Izuku had a smirk hidden by his mask at his uncle's situation as Momo sighed. 𝗵𝗃 decided to host a party as she said to Izuku to invite his friends too. Akira and Athena cheered on having a party prepared by 𝗵𝗃 is the best. Izuku then excused himself as he texted the good news to both Ryukyu and Jirou. Ryukyu was shell-shocked at the score Izuku got as Jirou was hanging her jaw in disbelief. Both accepted the invitation to the party as Izuku gave the address. Time skip the next day. It was the next day. The party went magnificently as Inko, Athen and Akira met Kyuka and Ryukyu. Athena and Akira was onto Jirou upon hearing her last name as they both explained how big of a fan they are to Kyuka's parents. Both were asking millions of questions while Inko was having a happy chat with Ryukyu, who for unknown reasons seemed nervous the whole time but did enjoy herself. Izuku is now just lying on his bed after a normal morning training routine as suddenly his phone buzzed as he got a text from Ryukyu. Ryukyu, quick. Izuku, I need your help. Anguished face. Izuku, what happened? Ryukyu, the male model who was supposed to model with me met with an accident and the modeling is in 2 hours. We don't have enough time to get a new one. Izuku, RIP, so what can I help with? Ryukyu, I need you to model with me. Izuku, why me? Ryukyu, you are the only good-looking male I know, and if you agree, for a few sessions you will get paid too. Aren't you saving up to buy a car? Powering the growth of India's industries sponsored by Mitsubishi Electric. Read more. Izuku, she got me. I'm trying to buy a car and go for a ride along the nearby areas since I am free for 2 months. I just got my license too. Izuku, you do know, I don't show my face right. Ryukyu, it will work in your favor more then. No one will recognize you're with the mask unless they are someone who know you well. Izuku, fine, where do I come? Ryukyu, sweet. I knew you would agree, the company already sent a car to you. Just get in. Izuku, fine, the pay better be worth it. Ryukyu, trust me. It is. Izuku sighed as he got off the phone and wore a black shirt and jeans and went down. Inko, who saw Izuku dressed to go out, asked, Are you going somewhere, Izuku? Izuku just answered, modeling. Inko let out as she stood there for a minute and snapped out of shock and was gonna ask Izuku for details just to see he is not there anymore. Izuku just flickered to the gate as he swiped his card and the gate opened. Izuku went out and waited for a few minutes as a black BMW stopped in front of him as the window opened as a man in a black suit and brown hair asked, Are you Izuku Midoriya? Izuku nodded as the door to the back seat opened as he got in. The man in brown then said, May I please see your face? Izuku hummed as he pulled down his mask. The driver and the secretary were in awe as the director who asked Izuku to do it smirked as he said, Yes, you look fabulous. I look forward for this month's contract we will have. Izuku nodded along as they on their way to the company. The director of the company noticed that Izuku was a rather quiet person along the way. They arrived as Izuku, the director and his secretary got off and entered into the building. Welcome to 𝗵𝗃's clothing brand. Izuku then remembered as he said, I like your brand, I recently got a few clothes from it too. The director beamed as he asked, Can you recognize the clothes? We can use them for today too. Izuku nodded as they arrived at the photoshoot room with Ryukyu in a traditional outfit taking a pic. Everyone stopped as they saw the director as Izuku gave a deadpan stare to a blushing and nervously chuckling Ryukyu. The director then announced, This is our new replacement model for the next month. His name is private information for only me and a few other. For now, call him Yuzuki. Everyone were in awe at the facial features of the young man. No one said it out loud, but everyone thought this man might be more better looking than the original model they were in contract with. Ryukyu gave her apologetic gesture with one hand as Izuku just waved it off and said, It's fine. This will be an experience for me too anyways. The director brought out a tablet and asked Izuku to select the outfits he bought. Izuku selected 3 pairs and the director then pointed out a few core details and other costumes which he will wear. Ryukyu was nervous about the mixed shots since her heart was already beating fast at the sight of Izuku's face. In the next 2 hours, Izuku had a total of 10 solo shots and 5 mixed shots with Ryukyu and Ryukyu had the same. Izuku's solo shots. The director and Izuku agreed upon using his model name to be Yuzuki and his real name will not be disclosed. The director then came to Izuku with the contract as he said, This will be a 1-month contract which is extendable if possible, we will have a weekly session. Ryukyu-san will or will not be there for each due to her duties. You will be paid $8,000 for each session after the magazines are published. Bonuses will be given depending upon reviews. We will not disclose any personal information to outsiders, and you will also be given as an additional of 20% discount card for any future purchases in our brand. Izuku, after reading the terms and conditions, agreed as he signed the papers, and the director called the driver to drop him home. While we have an extremely red-faced Ryukyu hiding in the preparation room as she yelled, "Why does he have to be so good-looking and so nice?" Thankfully, the room was soundproofed enough for Ryukyu's flustered rant to not be heard.